Good morning. It's 10 o'clock, and so at this time, I'll call to order the June 16th, 2022 Board of County Commissioners meeting for Douglas County. At this time, I would invite Senior Pastor of the Valley Christian Fellowship, Leo Kruger, to give us the invocation. Ask you to please remain standing and remove your hats if you have them for the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Chief Deputy District Attorney Doug Ritchie.
There we go. All right. I just want to say, you guys probably don't know this, but every Thursday at 10 o'clock, we have anywhere from 10 to 17 local pastors to get together and pray for our valley. This happens every week. And so right now there's about probably 10 or 12 pastors that are praying for you and praying for our valley, praying for our country, and just praying on the Lord's blessing on everything we can pray for. And so with that in mind, I just want to keep that in your hearts, letting you know that we pray for you each and every week. And so, Father, we just come to you today, God, and your word says that if we ask for wisdom, that you will give it to us. And Lord, I come right now and ask you that, Lord, you would give this group, everyone here, wisdom, God, to do the right thing, that every decision would be made based on the right thing to do, not on whether it's popular or any of those things, but that it would be the right thing to do to benefit our valley, to benefit this county. And Lord, God, I lift all this up to you. I lift every person in this room up to you. Pray for your direction and your leading and your wisdom upon them. And I pray that all in the mighty name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
If you could please join me in pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Kruger. Public comment. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker unless additional time is granted by the board chairperson. The Board of Commissioners uses timing lights to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to speak. You will see a green light when you begin and then a yellow light, which indicates you have 30 seconds left and you should conclude your comments. We ask once the light turns red to please sit down. In addition to opening public comment will also be taken on administrative agenda items that are identified for possible action and closing public comment. I would ask those here in chambers or in this hall to please silence your electronic devices so that it doesn't interrupt folks. So at this time, public comment will be taken on those items that are within the jurisdiction and control of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. Public comment.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman, members of the Commission. My name is Brian Fitzgerald. I'm the president of the Carson Valley Arts Council. I wanted to share with you some news. Yesterday, the Carson Valley Arts Council was awarded a T-Mobile hometown grant in the amount of $35,000. Thank you. This is significant for a number of reasons. First off, I want to thank Chairman Gardner for attending our celebration. Thank you for being there. So we had 25 of these were awarded nationwide. And so we were one of 25 to receive this grant. And secondly, we are the first in Nevada to receive this grant. So we're very proud to receive this hometown grant. The Arts Council intends to use the funds to assist with some preliminary renderings of the Copeland building, which we intend to convert into a small fixed seat venue. Also get us some architectural renderings and some construction cost estimates. So we're very excited to put these dollars towards something that we've been envisioning for many years. And I also feel it's significant because along with our application, we had a number of letters of support from the community. We had a letter of support from the county manager. Thank you, Mr. Cates. From the Community Services Department, from the towns of Minden and Garnerville, and from the Carson Valley Visitors Authority. And I feel that that just shows that we're unified when we're thinking about the arts and that the arts can make a difference in our community. So we're very excited about the grant. We also feel it dovetails nicely with what this board has supported by way of projects that are going to be forthcoming with some public art. It ties in very well with the plans for prosperity through the towns of Minden and Garnerville and your own economic vitality plan. So again, just wanted to share the great news. And Mark, thanks again for coming yesterday. Appreciate it.
Hi, good morning. I can't talk and write, so just a second. All right, good morning, commissioners. My name is Veronica LaChance, and I am the Executive Director for Family Support Council of Douglas County. We're a local nonprofit organization who provides supportive services to promote healthy families in our area. We're coming up on 40 years of service here in our valley, and we're so thankful and excited to be able to continue providing services here. In March of this year, our agency submitted an application for the county's available ARPA funds in the amount of $60,000. I'd like to provide you with a little history about our organization. Before introduction of our Jesse's Ranch program, which provides supportive services to adults with developmental disabilities, families in our community were forced to send their children and loved ones out of state to receive proper care. This left many of our individuals without lack of natural supports. Since starting the program in 2017, we have provided more than 60 individuals with an extensive 100,000 hours of supportive services. In 2020, we, like many others in our area, faced the pandemic crisis. While other businesses were able to shut their doors and work remotely, we had to continue to find a way to provide 24-hour care, support for our staff, and internalize the risk of secondhand burnout. We provided supportive services, all while facing the uphill climb of losing staff, funds, and billing opportunities. From March 2021 through February of 2022, Family Support Council lost approximately 4,278 service hours, which totaled $102,000. As you can imagine, that has a huge impact for our small nonprofit. Our highest month saw a loss of over $8,000. Lack of funding significantly impacts the individuals we serve and our efforts towards building independent skills and improving their quality of life. Impacts are observed with them in negative behaviors and increased depression. Programs across the state are rapidly shutting down due to similar concerns. While this request only covers 60% of our losses, we ask you to come together as a Board of Commissioners and as a community to fund our efforts to better serve Douglas County. We ask you to continue our fight for the individuals we serve and to grow and strengthen those who seek services through our organization. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Good morning, Ellie Weller. I'm unable to stay, so I'm commenting on two agenda items. Number one, the residency issue for county manager. This is a high-level, highly compensated job, and I'm not sure if it's a good idea to set a precedent at this time. I'm not sure if Mr. Cates has looked for a home that could accommodate his family, sell one here, buy one here. Has the district attorney's office weighed in on this request? Is this even a request that can be honored under NRS 10-155 temporarily or in perpetuity? Any employment contract is just that, a contract. Circumstances beyond our control exist in our lives, and sometimes employment with specific contractual agreements come into play. I was in aerospace. I had to relocate. That's where my job was. This one is not quite that similar, but still it was a requirement. Another comment came into your package, also stating that eventually situations caring for elderly parents would no longer that do need help. It happens to all of us. No disrespect to Mr. Cates. Item number 10, I do not agree with the recommendation from the county manager on the Prosperity Center funding under ARPA. It's been stated Southlake has contributed. How much? Also have the major employers like Barton, Heavenly, the casinos, et cetera, contributed as they benefit from the completion of this workforce or affordable housing when it does come in. These should have been mitigations. I've often said in the past that they should be responsible for their fair share. Thank you.
Morning, gentlemen. My name is A.J. Ursick Jr. I'm a representative of a large group of residents in the Johnson Lane community. I'm here regarding the Painted Rock Mine project. Although you have addressed this project previously, the residents of our community have been very active during the past 2 years. We've had fairly consistent contact with Mr. Amadei's office and more intimately with the BIA and more recently with the BLM. Regarding the second environmental assessment, our community has been extremely productive with research involving mineral materials, health research, and safety data. Review of the EA has revealed numerous errors, misinformation, and deceptive conclusions regarding various mitigations of the community's issues. As an environmental consultant myself, I found the initial EA as well as the current EA lacking and wanting. Sending letters, citing data, and listing numbers can be useful and should be documented. However, associating those data with visual representation can be most beneficial in understanding the personal, physical, and yes, emotional impact of this overwhelming incursion upon our community. To that end, I've been working with the BLM. I've organized a meeting with the BLM team, Mr. Matthew Magaletti and Ms. Kimberly Dow. Additionally, I've set up a tour of the community and the truck routes that have been identified in the current EA. The tour will take place directly after the meeting. Although you are aware of these activities, I wanted to publicly invite the county staff, including county commissioners, county manager, county sheriff, to the meeting to participate on the tour. The mission and purpose is a fact-finding measure for the BLM team. They are here to listen and review. Mr. Magaletti and Ms. Dow are here at our pleasure. It is my intent that their time is spent efficiently. No county issues will be discussed. The meeting is open to the public. The meeting will be conducted at the Baptist Church on Johnson Lane, 1581 Johnson Lane, Mendon, by the water tanks. The date is June 29, 2022. The time is 9 a.m. The tour will start at the conclusion of the meeting, approximately 10 o'clock. I will submit questions to the BLM team in advance of the meeting so they can prepare complete answers. If you plan to attend and have questions to the BLM, please send them to me at 114 Rockwell, ROCKWELL @gmail.com. Also, if you want to be on our mailing list, use the same address.
Good morning. My name is Starla Doty, part of the Douglas County Library Board of Trustees. And it's my honor and pleasure to introduce you to the community, Tim Gelder, our new library director. Finally, yay. Tim participated in a vigorous and long interview process that included 4 interviews plus some multiple pre-screening interviews that happened along the way. And with the board alone was unanimously approved for this position. Tim comes to Douglas County via Paris, Texas, in a county about the same size as Douglas. He brings with him 27 years of experience in all aspects of library administration. He's enthusiastic, as you will see, and not shy. And most importantly, he's a team player that believes in building community, in his words, partnerships. We like that word a lot. We believe he and his family will be a great asset to Douglas County. We'll be planning a community event so everyone will be able to meet Tim, and I know he's already planning ways to get involved with our great community. In the meantime, please take a few minutes to stop by the library in Minden or the lake to say hello and to make him feel welcome. Additionally, I'd like to thank Christine Vito, Senior HR Analyst, for Douglas County for her hard work in the selection process, as well as serving a dual service as interim library director for us. She was professional, willing to go over and above her normal duties, and her wealth of knowledge during this process was amazing. So with that said, please welcome Tim DeGelder.
Good morning. I'm so happy to be part of the team. As Starla said, I bring almost 28 years of experience. We are your public library. We want to be part of your daily life. So we're going to mix some things up and try some new things so that everyone has a voice and a place to come to. Right now, we're doing our summer reading for our kiddos and families, so your brains don't get soft during the time off of school, right? And getting back to working with the friends of the library. We may have our book sale again in September. So besides coming to the library and using our services, if you do want to be more involved and volunteer with us, we have a lot of opportunities to do that. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve your community. I don't take that lightly. We have a lot of good things going on. When we interviewed 4 different times, I think I asked more questions than they asked me. So you guys have a lot going on to build on, and I'm just happy to be here, and hopefully my communication between you all and the community, you'll see more and more things about the library. So thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. So thank you all.
So Tim, I didn't catch your last name, and I'll probably butcher it even if I did. But anyways, I want to thank you for visiting with us today, and welcome to our community. And we look forward to a long relationship with you in the library. So,
My last name is kind of weird. D. Gelder. D. Gelder. It's Dutch, and it means the money. D. Gelder.
are you producing money? I hope.
Either I owe money or I will get money, right? One of the two. Okay.
Once again, thank you. Is there any additional public comment here in the room? Seeing none. Ms. Johnson, is there any public comment online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marsha Johnson for the record. At this time, there's no public comment online.
Thank you. We'll bring it back to the board then and close public comment. At this time, I will entertain a motion for the approval of the proposed agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Tarkanian, seconded by Commissioner Ingalls to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the previous minutes, discussion to approve the draft minutes of May 5th, 2022, and the May 19th, 2022 regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. Entertain a motion for approval of both.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Noasad, was it? And seconded by Commissioner Tarkanian for the approval of the draft minutes of May 5th, 2022 and May 19th, 2022 regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. Sensing no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. At this time, we will adjourn as the Board of County Commission. Well, we won't adjourn. We will recess, right? That's the proper word. We're not adjourning. Okay. We need to change the wording on this agenda to that. So recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Douglas County Liquor Board. I'm reminding myself, by the way, more than I'm reminding anybody else. This board is made up of 6 members, not 5. So our sheriff, our newly elected and re-elected Sheriff Dan Coverly will be participating in this. So at this time, item 1 of the Liquor Board for possible action, discussion to approve the addition of General Manager and Master Distiller John David Jeffrey to the existing intoxicating liquor producer and package retail liquor license with entertainment endorsement for CPB Holdings LTD DBA Bentley Heritage, represented by owner Christopher Bentley. John David Jeffrey has signed a waiver of notice of hearing. CPB Holdings LTD DBA Bentley Heritage is located at 1601 Water Street, Minden, Nevada 89423. And this is being brought forward by Captain Mitchitarian. Captain.
Good morning, Captain Ron Mitchitarian for the Sheriff's Office. All filing requirements have been met to add Mr. Jeffrey to this liquor license, which the Sheriff's Office is not opposed to.
Commissioners, is there any questions of Mr. Mitchitarian? Since none, this is an action item, so we'll go to the public for public comment. Is there any public comment? Since no public comment, Ms. Johnson, is there any public comment online for this item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marcia Johnson for the record. At this time, I have one person online with their hand raised. Buckeye, do you have public comment on item number 1 for the liquor board?
Yes, we do. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please make sure this comment is for liquor board item 1.
Thank you very much. Anuit Coeptis, and good morning, Douglas County Commissioners. We must have had a glitch on the Windows side of the platform this morning because we were not able to make an opening comment. So we'll ask you to open this up one more time after the liquor board convenes so that we can say howdy ho, what do you know, and make an opening comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's no additional public comment online at this time.
Okay. I will bring that back to the board then. And the only comment I have to make, Captain Mitchitarian, is I understand it, John David Jeffrey is already on this liquor license as the distiller, and this is adding him as the general manager. Is that correct?
Double checking here.
Okay, that's fine. Would you go to the microphone?
I don't believe the master distiller title was added to the license at all. The general manager was the liquor license signatory. So I'm being added now as the general manager.
Thank you for that clarification. Appreciate it. Okay. Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion. You didn't want to.
Doesn't seem like anybody wants to bite this one off, does it? Okay, I will move that we approve the addition of general manager and master distiller John David Jeffrey to the existing intoxicating liquor producer and package retail liquor license with entertainment endorsement for CPB Holdings LTD doing business as Bentley Heritage.
Motion by Commissioner Rice, seconded by Commissioner Ingalls to approve item 1 as stated with the addition of general manager and master distiller John David Jeffrey to the intoxicating liquor producer and package retail liquor license for CPB Holdings. Since no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. I didn't forget you, Dan. Item Roman numeral 2 for possible action, discussion to approve the addition of Chief Marketing Officer Emily C. Taylor to the existing package retail liquor license for Dolgen Midwest LLC DBA Dollar General number 13581, represented by store manager Denise Nicole Lawrence. Emily Taylor has signed a waiver of notice of hearing. Dolgen Midwest LLC DBA General Dollar number 13581 is located at 1257 Pitt Road, Gardnerville, Nevada, 89410. Captain Manchurian.
And all filing requirements have also met by this applicant to add Ms. Taylor to the existing liquor license. And the sheriff's office is not in objection.
Thank you. At this, any questions of Mr. Vegetarian? Sensing none, any public comment here in chambers? Sensing no public comment, Mr. Johnson, do we have anybody online that wishes to comment on this item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marsha Johnson for the record. At this time, there's no public comment online.
Okay, bring it back to the board for possible action. Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the approval of the addition of Chief Marketing Officer Emily C. Taylor to the existing package retail liquor license for Dolgen Middle West LLC, doing business as Dollar General number 13581, represented by the store manager Denise Nicole Lawrence. Emily Taylor has signed a waiver of notice of the hearing. Dolgen Midwest LLC, doing business as Dollar General number 13581, is located on 1257 Pitt Road, Gardnerville, Nevada, 89410. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Noasad. I'm not sure who seconded that. Commissioner Ingalls second that to approve item Roman numeral 2, the addition of Chief Marketing Officer Emily C. Taylor to the existing liquor package retail liquor license for Dolgen Midwest. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. So we'll now adjourn as the Douglas County Liquor Board and reconvene as the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. Consent calendar. I have one note to make on the consent calendar. We have been notified that item P, we did not get all the supporting document for item P from the state of Nevada or the Department of Justice. Therefore, item P is being removed from the consent calendar. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent calendar from A to Z, and then from AA through AG as in George.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Rice, seconded by Commissioner Tarkanian to approve the consent calendar A through Z minus item P and item AA through AG. Since no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0. Well, that moved us right along, didn't it? Okay. We'll now go into the administrative agenda. And for presentation only, ceremonial presentation of Proclamation 2022 P-066, recognizing the Business Council of Douglas County on its 30th anniversary. And I will go to the other microphone for this. Good morning. Good to see you. Okay. This is pretty lengthy, so I'll probably stumble over a few words on this. But anyways, proclamation by the Douglas County Board of Commissioners, Proclamation 2022 P-066, the Business Council of Douglas County's 30th anniversary. Whereas the Business Council of Douglas County was founded in September 1992 by proactive business owners whose mission is to assemble, organize, and coordinate the talents and resources of the business and professional leaders of Douglas County for the purpose of assisting the public sector in the identification, examination, and successful resolution of area-wide issues, and represents Douglas County business leadership, ensuring the business climate in Douglas County is conducive to economic diversification. And whereas the Business Council of Douglas County has been a steward in the county and has provided a productive liaison between the business and professional leadership of the area and all levels of state, local, and federal governments. And whereas the Business Council of Douglas County has received several commendations from the governors and lieutenant governors, state and federal representatives of the state of Nevada for undertaking issues of key importance to the state, county, and community, and positioned the priorities of Douglas County in clearly placing Nevadans first and proclaimed their dedication to the betterment of Nevada as commendable. And whereas the Business Council of Douglas County for 30 years has organized numerous public meetings, obtained input from various groups and individuals across the county, state, and country, and participated in the master plan, addressed and studied multiple topics, including holding town hall debates, water and education forums, transportation issues, and an annual critical issues conference contemplating difficult topics, candidate forums, participating on numerous county and state committees, working with legislators on critical topics. And whereas we commend the Business Council of Douglas County for their tireless efforts in the quest to build a stronger and more equitable community by promoting business development while protecting one of the most beautiful places on earth. Amen. And whereas we congratulate the Business Council for their outstanding achievements, therefore be it proclaimed by the Douglas County Board of Commissioners, along with the Douglas County citizens and visitors, to recognize the endeavors of the Business Council of Douglas County on this, the 30th anniversary of the organization, and in appreciation of the time, talent, treasures, energy, and efforts expended to thoughtfully work together with the community and government to better Douglas County, adopted this 16th day of June 2022, signed by myself and attested by our clerk treasurer, Amy Bergens. Ladies.
Thank you so much.
So we have today not only the president, I believe, of the Business Council, but also the executive director of the Business Council to receive this. So anyways, please say a few words if you wish.
Well, today I'm here in my capacity as the president of the Business Council. I have been president of the Business Council for a longer tenure than normal because of the passing of one of the finest men I've ever known, Bill Henderson. So I served my term, and now I am serving Bill's term, and I definitely wanted to recognize that. I also want to say that this group, this Business Council, succeeds exceptionally well because of the work of our executive director, Renee Louie. If you have never worked with Renee, let me tell you, the only way to do it is say, yes, ma'am, and get out of her way, because she will get it done. So with that, I'm going to turn it right over to her.
Good morning, Chair, board members, county manager, assistant district attorney, staff. For the record, Renee Louie, Business Council of Douglas County. This is an incredible accomplishment for the business leaders in this community on their 30th anniversary this year. In 1992, they had a vision and a mission, and they have maintained that steady course for all of time. All of the leaders at the Business Council that serve on the board and serve on the membership and all the committees come with hard work at a minimum for all this time. I joined the Business Council as the executive director in year 7. It's hard to believe that we're at year 30. A lot has been accomplished in that time. And I have worked with many county managers, many county commissioners, many elected officials in the state and federally, the towns and the citizens, and most of all, the board members and the council members. They have been the responsible businesses for all of those years that have provided the majority of the non-governmental jobs in this county. They have provided the jobs, they've provided the economic stability, they have provided our quality of life, and they have provided the tax base. They are the ones to be commended, certainly not me. So on behalf of all of them, we are here, and there's a few members in the audience, Carlo, Drew. There's many members that are working hard and providing the work of the day. With that, I'd like to thank the commission so much and the county manager's office for honoring them for their 30 years. And they will continue forward and continue investing in the community as they've always committed. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
And Renee said, one more picture. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'd like to invite the other business council members that are here for a picture. Yeah.
You can make them come, Jared.
Yeah, I can.
I invited them. They're like, no, no.
Steal the thunder.
Oh, sure. One more.
Everybody started texting you.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
All right.
Thank you so much.
So I know this is a little out of order, but I did indicate that our sheriff had been reelected, and we have a couple of people in the audience that should be probably recognized in that regard also. First of all, I'll congratulate Commissioner Rice for his reelection. Have you back on the board. And then, that's fine, yep. We have our new county recorder that'll take over as of January 1st, right? Shawneen Guerin. And we have our newly elected county commissioner, Charlotte Hales. So Commissioner-elect. Did I miss anybody else? Okay, good. Okay, very good. We'll go on to item 2 for presentation only, presentation of artwork from Main Street, Gardnerville to Douglas County in appreciation of the county's continued support of the organization. And this is being presented by Jen Alder, Program Director, Main Street, Gardnerville. And she'll also be conducting wine walk this afternoon, right? So you're on, Ms. Nalder.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Chairman, fellow county commissioners. My name is Jen Nalder and I'm with your Main Street Gardnerville program. And today we wanted to do a presentation to you in appreciation of your years of continued service to our Main Street Gardnerville program. We have here our I'm also joined with Bridgette Thornton, our Main Street Gardnerville board member. I have Mike Olson, president of our Main Street Gardnerville board as well, and he was also former county commissioner. And I have Deborah Hemphill, who is also our secretary and board member. And of course, we have the lovely Lisa Granahan. This presentation is a watercolor. It's our first commissioned art piece that we were able to do this year, working with the local artist, Lavon Lavasic Tulip. She created this watercolor depicting an early 1900s scene in our Main Street. In the picture, it's depicted of the Rawback Hotel, which we now know as the JT, and it also shows the old Gardnerville Cornet Band, which was in existence in the 1900s. And of course, the old 4th of July parade that used to take place down our Main Street. It was really important for us at the beginning of the year to reflect on our organization as we go forward as to the importance of what we do. And this painting, I really feel, depicts where we came from way back in 1879 and where we are now. So as we make decisions going forward, it's essential for us to know that there's a lot of rich history that must be preserved. I wanted to read a quick letter to you from Meredith Fisher, who is our board member, couldn't make it today, but she wanted to express a sentiment to you of gratitude. It says, "Dear Commissioner Gardner and members of the board, I would like to thank you along with the previous members of the commission who have supported the Main Street Gardnerville program. As a Douglas County native, preserving our history is immensely important to me. As our community continues to grow, preserving some of the legacies of those who have come before us helps our community maintain its rich culture and unique personality. Historic buildings once gone cannot be replaced. Stories untold or forgotten, but the history of our area will not be forgotten thanks to the support of our program. We look forward to our continued synergistic partnership and all that we can continue to accomplish together. Sincerely, Meredith Fisher, Main Street Gardnerville board member and owner of Eddy Street." I always like to say that Eddy is the model of what a Main Street program can do. Just to give you some quick numbers, our Main Street program has just received its national accreditation for 2022. And this is a big deal because we stand only among 863 nationwide with that national accreditation. And you can also be very proud to know that we are the only nationally accredited program in the state of Nevada. So what we represent as this continued partnership with our local community government, our local municipalities, and nonprofit plus volunteers is a beautiful representation of what can happen on how we can build our community together, preserving our natural history, cultivating our downtown, bringing arts into the district, and the list goes on. Our organization is comprised of volunteer efforts. Last year, we invested over 35,000 hours of volunteer efforts. And if you know what $1 worth for a volunteer hour is, you can see the significant impact it has in our community. We had 118 businesses sponsoring our program last year. We hung 80 flower baskets down your Main Street. We adopted out 75 pots through our Main Street and Bloom program. We have a community garden with over 56 garden beds that are rented by the community, which is a 100% volunteer effort to maintain those gardens. I am just very proud to be a part of this organization. With your continued support and thanks to the Lisa Granahan with the Economic Vitality and Mr. Cates, who have found the importance in this program, we are now able to invest even more into our community with the facade program, pilot program that is soon to be wrapped up and ready to go, which in that we will be investing real dollars into the community for those business owners to do small improvements. Some of them do simple things such as bringing new windows that will, again, preserve those buildings, but also bringing other elements that are more beautiful to the downtown to make it more appealing as we drive through. So I wanted to thank you, and I hope that when we look at this painting and when you hang it proudly, that you can remember our vision statement, which is experience the past, enrich the present, and embrace the future. You want to say anything? And if you wouldn't mind, we would like to take a photo with you. It looks like a wall.
Why don't we slide down here so we have a trash can?
So So, and Ms. Nalder, Ms. Nalder. Anyways, I just wanted to say how much we appreciate you and what your organization brings to the community. So thank you very much again. So once again, I don't know where I'm going to hang that in the house. We already have all of our wives. I'm sure we'll find some place appropriate in the county to put it, right? Okay. And I'll remind our community that Main Street Gardnerville sponsors an event called Wine Walk tonight. I believe it starts at 4:30 up and down the streets of Main Street of Gardnerville. Item 3, for possible action, the discussion to approve an order revoking parcel map LDA 16-005 recorded as document number 2018-914193, reverting the parcels back to acreage in accordance Douglas County Code Section 20.712.100. The assessor parcel numbers are 1220-10-601-006, parcel number 1220-10-601-007, parcel number 1220-10-601-008, and parcel number 1220-10-601-009, DP 22-0132. And this is being presented by Mr. Hutchings and Deputy DA Sam Taylor. Is that correct? Okay. Did I get any of those numbers wrong? Because I want to make sure they're in the proper record. Okay, very good. Sometimes I have to catch myself. I get a little dyslexic at times. So, okay, Mr. Hutchings.
Yep, thank you. Jeremy Hutchings, I'm your county engineer. I got Sam Taylor, the district attorney's office for the record. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and board. So I got a PowerPoint presentation for you. This is should be item 3 in your packet. It's a reversion to acreage for under land division application 1605. Let's see if we can. I think it's working. There we go. So just to give you an overview of what we're doing, we'll get into the details, is we've got a parcel map that was recorded. So one parcel became 4 back in 2018. Some improvements weren't installed that were required. So we're going to revert it back to one parcel. So 4 now becoming 1. Not sure if this is a unique necessarily item, but it's certainly unusual. Most of the time we're splitting parcels, right? We're going from 1 into 4. So now we're going 4 back into 1. And let's see here. So just to get you oriented, the red arrow is showing the parcel highlighted in yellow. It's in the south end of Gardnerville, just across from the hospital. I've labeled Walmart up in the upper left corner of that vicinity map. And it's the old, I think there's a garden center there before. So here's the parcel map that got recorded. And it was recorded under LDA 16005. So the yellow was the entire parcel before it was subdivided. I've underlined parcel 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that yellow parcel is now currently 4 parcels. So I know sometimes we get lost a little bit in the details, but I just wanted to bring up a couple of important dates. So May 12th in 2016, the parcel map was approved at the administrative hearing panel. And with that improvement or approval, there were some required improvements. There are more than this, but in general, a deceleration lane off of 395, primary access across from Virginia Ranch Road was supposed to be constructed, secondary emergency access, and several utility extensions were part of their approval that were conditioned. May 10th, 2018, the original owner, rather than constructing the improvements, he posted security for them. So that's allowed and not unusual. And so the security was posted and the map recorded on May 14th of 2018. So that created the 4 parcels as they exist today. The security expired, and this is the important part. The security expired May 10th, 2020, and the required improvements that were conditioned to be installed were not installed. So no work was actually done at the site. So April 28th, 2022, I filed a letter with the clerk of our intent to revoke the parcels. Let's see here. So some of these maps aren't really suited for this type of format, but I'm trying to give you an overview here. This is the site plan. A lot of the notes are not that important. Just to give you an overview, the highlighted yellow again is the overall project. You can see the underline in red, the parcels 1, 2, 3, and 4. Over here on the right, that's the entrance that was supposed to be constructed. It was a restricted turn movement, right in, right out only. There's a deceleration lane to make the turn that is supposed to be constructed, and secondary access, some gravel access around, and several utilities that are supposed to be extended, water, sewer, the usual. So here's a photo I took personally in May, I believe it was May. The red arrow is showing the site. The gate here is the existing entrance today. You can see that it's quite old. It has not been improved. You can plainly see that the deceleration lane has not been installed. Secondary access not installed, and there's no evidence of any of the utilities being installed that were required. So this is how the parcel looked. This highlighted blue area is how the parcel originally looked. And with the approval, if you gentlemen approve the item, it will revert back to this state. Again, 4 becomes 1. The owner isn't going to lose any of his development rights necessarily. He can still develop the parcel as he sees fit within the allowed zoning. I mean, theoretically, he could come back at a later date to subdivide it again and go through the parcel map process again. And we're just resetting the clock. That's all we're doing. So in summary, the parcel map that created these 4 parcels had some required improvements to be installed. The improvements were not installed. The security that was posted that allowed the map to record is expired. And so the parcel should be reverted to its original configuration. Is a recommended motion. One thing that's not on the list is just public outreach. I've been, the owner, Gabe, I forget Gabe's last name, I'd butcher it too. I call him the balloon guy. He runs the hot air balloon business. It's pretty cool. We like to see that in the Valley. I think he definitely would like to get a chance to speak. I have been trying to work with him and explain the process to him as much as I can. You know, I didn't provide all the email correspondence in the packet, but we did have outreach to the current owner. And just so it's clear, Gabe wasn't the original person that developed and split the parcel. He subsequently bought it after it was split. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any specific questions.
We should probably hear from the owner at this time.
Good morning. My name is Gabriel Gundling. And as Jeremy said, I am the owner of 1144 Highway 395 LLC, which owns those 4 parcels. I want to start by actually thanking Jeremy for sort of guiding me through this. I'm a first-time wannabe developer. Bought this parcel last September, and I've been trying to sort through the mess that was sort of, you know, that I kind of inherited since then. At the time when I purchased it, the bond had already expired. And so basically what I needed to do is either get a new bond or face you guys today. I opted to face you guys today because there's quite a bit going on there. And in addition to the fact that my vision for the property does not match the previous owner's vision, The neighboring property had been purchased last April, I believe, and they will be developing that. And so a lot of the requirements have changed. So they're in the process of developing their parcel. I'm in the process of working on my parcels with my engineer, and negotiating with the neighbors to try to figure out kind of a new proposal that will work for everybody, and sort of move this whole thing forward. To date, obviously, we haven't been successful on that, and that's why we're here today. But if there's any way, and I might be clueless, and it might be easier just to revert it, I'm not sure. But if there's any way for us to kind of extend that period out, give us a little bit more time to try to work with the neighbor and work with the county to find a solution that works well for all of us and kind of keeps a forward momentum, as opposed to kind of taking a step back. Obviously, I'd be greatly appreciated on my part. I think that's pretty much sort of sums up what I've got to say. As you saw on that map, that parcel map, it's pretty detailed in terms of what the requirements were to keep those parcels. And those details, or what that was designed for, was a very specific use and set of buildings that I'm not intending to build. And so again, my request is that I get a little bit, get some more time to try to figure out a way to, again, keep the 4 parcels, but also meet my obligation to the county and work out what's best with the neighboring property. And that's the property just to this, on our south property line there. So with that, I'll open up to any questions. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them, but that's all I've got for you.
So before we go to public comment, are there any questions of the current landowner or community development? Commissioner Rice.
I have a couple questions. Number one, is this going to be coming back before us again to divide it back into 4 lots?
So it's Commissioner Rice. So if he comes back with just a parcel map, it just goes to administrative hearing panel level. If it were to be a commercial subdivision map, it would come back to this board for approval. Does that answer your question?
Okay, you've asked for more time. How much time would you need?
That's a difficult question to answer right now, but I would say that, reasonably, if we haven't worked something out, a year from now, then there's absolutely no reason to so what I'm doing is I'm working with I'm working with the neighbor, and I'm working on their timeline as well. So there's a lot of there's a lot of things in the air to kind of balance here, and try to wrangle in. So that's why it's hard for me. But again, like I said, I think it's pretty reasonable that within a year I'd be we'd have something solid on paper and done.
Yeah, when this first came before us and I looked at the package, it looked quite simple. We have bifurcation or quartification. Is that a word? Anyway, that we're putting back into 1 parcel, but it sounds like it's a little bit more complicated than that. And I'm not sure that I want to go forward with this at this time. A year, when we're talking dirt, isn't all that long a period of time. So, Sam, council, what's your recommendation?
Thank you, Commissioner Rice. Sam Taylor for the record, Douglas County District Attorney's Office. In this particular instance, I would basically recommend going along with Jeremy's proposal. And the reason for that is under 2720020 of the Douglas County Code, developer basically is required to agree to construct and complete all required improvements no later than 2 years following the date of 1, the recordation of the final map or the issuance of a building or site permit. Those 2 years have come and gone. Under Douglas County Code, we and the board, I don't think, has the authority actually to extend out this project any more than has already been the case under existing code. If the party wished to amend the code to allow for a longer period of time, and this board wished to consider a longer period of time, it could do so, but that is not the case at the present time. And under existing law and the law that was in place at the time that this development was approved, 2 years was the maximum term that was allowed for the security to remain in place and those improvements to remain unfinished. Quite frankly, this should have been brought before the board 2 years ago. Because as Jeremy noted in his original presentation, the security expired in 2020. So.
My next question, and hopefully the last one. So if we decide to return this to the original one parcel, what long-term effect will it have on the new owner?
Again, Sam Taylor for the record. It will have no long-term effect on the owner other than he would be required to re-subdivide the property if that was his desire to do so and that was consistent with his plans. He can develop the property, as Jeremy noted, right now, given the existing zoning, and build something on the property. But if he wanted to subdivide the property and sell the lots or improve them in a different mechanism, he would have to again go before the administrative hearing panel. That process, quite frankly, is not overly burdensome to the applicant. Folks do it all the time. It would involve a little bit more cost, but not a significant cost for the person to develop the property. As the owner noted, he has different plans than the previous owner had. So, you know, does he really need 4 lots? I don't know. Does he need 3 lots, 2 lots? It would be best, in my opinion, to allow him to decide what he wants to do with the property, then come back to the administrative hearing panel or this board, depending on what he wants to do, and then, you know, develop the property accordingly.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
It sounds like the owner, or whoever is the current owner, has not got his ducks in a row just yet. He's talking about making some negotiation with the previous owner and so on. So I would suggest that we return this to agriculture, not agriculture. Anyway, go back to the one lot and let this guy over here get his ducks in a row and then come back and start the process all over again. I mean, we had a 4-year time span from the start to the finish where we are right now. And it should have been done in 2.
Commissioner Tarkanian? Okay, Commissioner Ingalls? Okay, so this is a possible action item. So at this time, I will go to public comment on this. Is there anybody here that wishes to offer public comment?
I don't know. I'm glad to see things like this cleaned up. It really, if the person hasn't done what they're required to do, it should go back to the original. I have a fear on this property. There is a project next to it being proposed with 61 units plus commercial space. And in the future, if this land, if both were to be developed, you take one of the worst intersections in the county and you would throw, I don't know how many more cars on it. It'd almost make it impassable. Until the bridge is built with extra lanes or the streets are widened, the county's capacity at that intersection doesn't suit the one development that's been proposed. I can't imagine if both these properties were going to be, for example, housing or anything that involved a lot of cars. So just something to think about. Thank you.
Sensing no other public comment here, do we have any public comment online, Ms. Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marcia Johnson for the record. At this time, there's no public comment online.
Okay, we'll bring it back to the board for a possible motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the order revoking parcel map LDA 16-005 recorded as document number 2018-914193, reverting the parcels back to acreage in accordance with Douglas County Code Section 20.712.100. Assessor parcel numbers 1220-10-601-006, 1220-10-601-007, 1220-10-601-008, and 1220-10-601-009, DP 22-0132.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Noasad, seconded by Commissioner Ingalls to approve the order revoking parcel map LDA 16-005 as stated. Further comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Item number 4, for possible action, discussion on a 7th memorandum of understanding with the Douglas County Employees Association, DCEA, to provide a one-time market adjustment of 7% and a 2% cost of living adjustment, COLA, effective June 25th, 2022, being presented by our Director of Human Resources, Ms. Lang.
Thank you very much, Chairman, members of the commission. Wendy Lang, Human Resources Director for the record. I've been before you a couple of times and provided a full presentation, which is attached here, of the Human Capital Risk Assessment update during the budget setting process this year. Highlights of that presentation are that our current salary ranges as an aggregate are 15% below the market at the entry level of our pay grades and 9% below at the mid-range of our pay grades. You approved setting budget to increase employees' salaries by 2%, followed by 7%, and then followed by 2% during the budgetary settings. And we've implemented the first 2% cost of living, which was due in July and was updated to April by this board. And there's been much appreciation for that updated timeline. Today, this item before you is specific to the Douglas County Employees Association to provide a 7% cost of living adjustment, as well as additional 2%, a 7% market adjustment, as well as a 2% cost of living adjustment, as has been budgeted for this upcoming fiscal year, effective July. And I'm happy to answer any questions on this particular memorandum of understanding update to the DCA contract. Thank you.
Commissioners? Sensing nothing from the commissioners, I will take this to public comment. Is there any public comment here in chambers? Sensing none. Ms. Johnson, is there any public comment online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marcia Johnson for the record. At this time, there's one person online who has indicated they would like to provide public comment. Buckeye, do you have public comment on item number 4?
I do, and thanks for your patience there. Appreciate our employees and
Can you
social
please state your name for the record?
Oh, yes, indeed, indeed. Buck Brown for the record. Thank you. Again, we appreciate our employees and social service workers and what have you. We see a lot of relief going out that's necessary. And the Gardnerville, Minden, Genoa Homeowners Association will certainly be asking for the same kind of relief when it comes to our tax base and our obligation to the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No further public comment online at this time.
Thank you. I'll bring it back to the board then. For further discussion and a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Rice.
I move that we approve the 7th MOU in DCEA to provide a one-time market adjustment of 7% and a 2% COLA effective June 25, 2022 as presented.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rice, seconded by Commissioner Ingalls to approve a 7th Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, with the Douglas County Employees Association, DCEA, to provide a one-time market adjustment of 7% and a 2% cost of living adjustment, COLA, effective June 25th, 2022. Any further discussion? Sensing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. We will go to item number 5 for possible action, discussion to adopt resolution 2022R-063 to provide a one-time market adjustment of 7% and a 2% cost of living adjustment, COLA, for a total increase in employee pay rates and salary ranges of 9% effective June 25th, 2022. Ms. Lang.
Thank you very much, Chairman, members of the Commission. Wendy Lang, Human Resources, for the record. This is almost an identical item to cover the same exact base of employees being slightly different, but it's the same exact pay raise. The previous item covered those covered by our employee association. This resolution will cover employees not in a bargaining unit, the non-represented group, which is the majority of the county employees. Again, I presented to you an updated human capital risk assessment, which is attached to this packet, and you have set a budget for this year to adopt this increase in employee wages and salary ranges. It has been appreciated across the organization, and it has been impactful to our ability to hire and retain qualified employees to provide excellent services in this community. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
So, Ms. Lang, so as I understand it, so we have a number of employees that are within our Douglas County Employees Association, and it's only fair then to offer those employees that we have in Douglas County that are not represented by DCA the same type of cost of living adjustments. Is that what I'm seeing here?
Yes, that's correct, Chairman. It would cover all of the remaining employees that are not in a bargaining unit.
Right. Commissioners, any other questions? Sensing none. Ms. Johnson, do we have anything online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marsha Johnson for the record. At this time, there's no public comment online.
Bring it back to the board for a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Rice.
I move that we adopt a resolution 2022R-063 to provide a one-time market adjustment of 7% and a 2% COLA for a total increase in employee pay rates and salary ranges of 9% effective June 25th, 2022 as presented.
Motion by Commissioner Rice, seconded by Commissioner Ingalls to approve and adopt resolution 2022R-063 to provide a one-time market adjustment of 7% and a 2% cost of living adjustment, COLA, for a total increase in employee pay rates and salary ranges of 9% effective June 25th, 2022. Sensing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Ms. Lang.
Thank you very much for the support of a strong workforce.
Our workforce is important to keep, so we need to do this. Thank you. Item number 6. For possible action, discussion to approve $150,000 budget transfer from community development salary savings to the Indigent Legal Defense Program, presented by County Manager Patrick Cates.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Patrick Cates. So this agenda item is a request to increase the budget for indigent defense services by $150,000. As we've talked about this program multiple times in the last year, this is the first year that this program came under the county manager's office and under new laws passed by the legislature. Initially, the budget that we set up assumed a consistent level of activity. We historically have had 5 contracted attorneys. We subsequently added a contract for an indigent defense coordinator. In the last year, what we've seen happen, and some of this has come before the board, is we lost some of those indigent defense contract attorneys who were full-time attorneys. And in that transition, when those were lost, the judges were in a position where they had to appoint counsel for some people, and they didn't have enough contracted attorneys to go around. So under their authority, under statute, they appointed attorneys on an hourly basis to represent various individuals. And as we continue to transition, we also have engaged in the county manager's office attorneys on an hourly basis. We are a little unsure of what those total costs are going to be, how much time they're spending on each case through June 30. So we're trying to add some money into the budget to make sure we're covering it. Again, there's still some unknowns there. As you know, we have subsequently added indigent defense contract attorneys full-time. So the use of the hourly attorneys should be going down. And hopefully this is sufficient to get us through the next fiscal year, but there are some unknowns as to what billings we're going to receive for the last couple months of the year. So that's the request. Ultimately, the state is required under statute to reimburse the county for any cost increases from this program. So we ultimately should get some reimbursement back from the state if we exceed our baseline expenditures. I don't remember that exact number, but I think it's somewhere around $800,000 a year, if I recall correctly. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Cates, $150,000 to transfer into indigent legal defense program. That money is going to be spent how?
For the record, Patrick Cates. So it's a combination of all the expenditures of the program. Primarily, this is going to be hourly contracts for attorneys that we've entered into agreements for, as well as there are also some contracts for expert witnesses and some extraordinary court expenses.
Okay, so the $150,000 will be spent for those items.
For the record, Patrick Cates, that's correct.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions? So, Mr. Cates, you also indicated we have a maximum expected outlay from our general fund of 800,000. Is that before we get into, I mean, approximately before we start receiving reimbursement back from the state?
For the record, Patrick Cates, I can't remember if it was 800,000. I don't want to, I shouldn't have thrown that number out there. There is a baseline expenditure. It was based on our 2-year average when the program was with the courts. It didn't include the Indigent Defense Counsel coordinator position. That was added subsequently. So what our actual expenditures are, obviously we've lost some contracts, we've added some others. I'm not sure what that's going to be, but ultimately we shouldn't be spending any more on this program than we have historically when it was with the courts. That's the purpose of the state law.
Thank you for clarification. So at this time, if there's no further questions, we'll go to public comment on this item. Is there any public comment here in chambers? Sensing none. Ms. Johnson, is there any public comment online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marcia Johnson for the record. At this time, there's one person online who has indicated they would like to provide public comment. Buckeye, do you have public comment on item number 6?
Thank you, commissioners. So I'd like to note the Buck Brown for the record. I'd like to note that Mr. Cates' statement about extraordinary court expenditures will include the litigation expenditures related to pursuing a maladministration remedy when it comes to equalizing false authority. So make sure you pad that budget real good, because you're going to use your lawful measures, lawful means to reconcile some of the recklessness that's being practiced by agency today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's no further public comment online at this time.
Thank you. I'll bring it back to the board for further discussion and possible motion. Since we have no further comments, I'll entertain a motion.
Everybody wants to bite on this one. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve $150,000 budget transfer from community development salary savings to the Indigent Legal Defense Program as presented.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rice, seconded by Commissioner Tarkanian to approve a $150,000 budget transfer from community development salary savings to Indigent Legal Defense Program. Since no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Guess you need to stay right where you are. You're next also. So for possible action discussion on the creation of an administrative assistant position to assist with the administration of Indigent Defense Services Program to promote effective and efficient management of the county's Indigent Defense Services Program. Mr. Cates.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Patrick Cates. So again, talking about Indigent Defense Services Program, we're talking about next fiscal year. What we think would be prudent to do is to add an administrative assistant position to this program. And currently we have Derek Lopez, who's the Indigent Defense Coordinator, doing all the work of this program with some assistance from my office, but he's mostly trying to manage it himself. The administrative tasks are things like processing contracts with attorneys, processing invoices, doing reporting to the state, some of those types of things. We pay Mr. Lopez $100 an hour as an attorney, and an attorney needs to be the coordinator because they have to make court appearances and some of those things. But we certainly don't have to pay an attorney $100 an hour to do administrative work. We expect this to be self-funded because Mr. Lopez has indicated he can reduce his billing significantly as a result of this position being added. So we expect it to be budget neutral, or hopefully we'll actually save money. Additionally, depending on how this person's time is balanced, they will be housed in the county manager's office. They may provide some assistance to the county manager's office and other duties if these other duties are being adequately covered. In that case, we do use on-call administrative assistants in our office regularly, and I would expect if we use the position in that capacity that we'd see savings from the on-calls that we're using as well. But again, its main focus is to help the Indigent Defense Services Program and should save us money going forward. Happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, questions, Mr. Cates?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, going back to the 150,000, is this administrative assistant going to be part of that 150,000?
For the record, Patrick Cates, no. 150,000 is for the current fiscal year, which is going to end on June 30. This position would start next fiscal year, starting after July 1st.
And the source of income for that salary?
The source of income for the salary would be the Indigent Defense budget, which is funded out of the general fund. And again, there would be savings from the Indigent Defense Coordinator billings to cover that increased salary expense.
Thank you.
No further questions? We'll go to, so as I gathered, so this will be cost neutral, if not a savings, because currently we're paying Mr. Lopez $100 an hour for administrative services versus legal services. So a cost of an administrative assistant is quite a bit less than that, I would take it. So we potentially could be saving money here through this process. Okay. Then at this time, I'll go to public comment. Is there any public comment here in chambers? Sensing none. Ms. Johnson, is there any public comment online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marcia Johnson for the record. At this time, there's no public comment online.
Okay. Bring it back to the board for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we support the creation of an administrative assistant position to assist with the administration of the Indigent Defense Services Program to promote effective management in the county's Indigent Defense Services Program.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Noah, seconded by Commissioner Tarkanian to create an administrative assistant position to assist with the administration of the Indigent Defense Services Program to promote effective and efficient management of the county's Indigent Defense Services Program. Since no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. And now we'll go to item number 8 for possible action. Discussion on a first amendment to the employment contract between Douglas County and County Manager Patrick Cates pursuant to his request to remove subsection F of paragraph 3, conditions of employment addressing residency requirements. And this is being presented, Ms. Lang, or, oh,
I'm
okay,
here.
there she is.
Thank you very much, Chairman, members of the commission. Wendy Lang, Human Resources for the record. As you read into the record, this is an item to address the current agreement between Douglas County and your employee, Patrick Cates, County Manager. Mr. Cates has fulfilled the conditions of his employment contract that was entered into when he began his tenure as county manager a little over 3 years ago. As he's noted in a letter which is attached to this packet and addressed to you, he's had some extenuating circumstances in his life. It was a very touching letter, and it's provided in the packet that outlines his request to make this change. I think that Mr. Cates is leading with transparency in this organization by coming to you and making this request given his personal circumstances. And so a proposed amendment to his agreement is attached, which strikes a condition for him to be required to live in Douglas County. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I believe Mr. Cates is as well. Thank you.
Mr. Cates, do you have anything to add to that? Or?
For the record, Patrick Cates, I think the letter that I wrote outlines it pretty well. I mean, fundamentally, I was eager to establish residency in Douglas County when I signed that contract, and we did do that by December of 2019, about 9 months later. Bought a nice house in Johnson Lane. It's a smaller house. It's about 1,600 square feet. For my wife and I, that was perfect. Really what's changed is the needs of my father and her father-in-law for care and assistance as they get older. Her father is 91, my father is 81, have increased over time. When we purchased the house in Johnson Lane, my father, we've owned a house in Washoe Valley for over 20 years. It's a much larger house. Has more bedrooms, more baths. It also has an accessory dwelling. It's about an 800 square foot house that my father's lived in for the last 20 years. He was in an accident late last year and suffered some injuries. And at his age, the rehab was a little hard on him. He needed some help. And he's doing better now in terms of getting around, but he's definitely getting to an age where he needs more assistance than he did before. And really, it's just that we have a house that meets that need to be able to care for those two men that are important to my wife and I. And I certainly see advantages to the county of me residing in Douglas County. And I hope in the future I'll have an opportunity to reestablish my residency in Douglas County, regardless of the position as county manager. But for now, this is really the best move that we could make for my wife and I and our fathers. And I don't think it'll impact my ability to do my duties as county manager. The house in Washoe Valley is about 30 minutes away from the Minden Inn. It's not that far away. So I hope you will understand that and will agree to amend the contract. Thank you.
Commissioners, questions?
Mr. Chair, I'm assuming I'm referring to subsection F of paragraph 3 of your contract. And that would be, and then maybe you can answer this for me, would that be the only change that has to be made?
Wendy Lang, for the record, yes, that's the only revision to the agreement.
And is there anything in code that outlines the requirements to take the county manager job?
Again, Wendy Lang, for the record, no, there is no other condition anywhere in county regulations or code that would require this. Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Got one question. That was from a comment that was made in our supplemental package. Did you read the comment from the lady on that? What do you think about her suggestion about it being temporary until the circumstances change? And I'm going to tell you, first of all, there's no better reason for making a move than to take care of your parents. I certainly appreciate that and fully supportive of it. Just want to hear what you think about the comment by the lady.
For the record, Patrick Cates. Yeah, I appreciate her comments. It's actually my wife saw her comments on Nextdoor for Johnson Lane neighborhood. And there was some back and forth and seemed to be not a lot of understanding as to the reasons why. So I responded to that and let people know about this meeting. I would like long-term to reside in Douglas County. And if the situation changes in the future, that's definitely something that we would look at. It's farther away from Reno. Washoe Valley is pretty nice, but farther away from Reno is good. I like the culture here. I like the community here. I think it's a really special community, not to take anything away from Washoe County, but ultimately long-term, that's where I'd like to be. Of course, buying a house is a big commitment, and I actually spent the first almost year trying to find a house that would allow my father to come with us, and really couldn't find anything suitable in the right price range. As everybody knows, there's limited housing stock here. I know I'm kind of beating around the bush. I can't make any firm commitments at this point, but I definitely have an interest and desire long-term to return my residency to Douglas County.
So, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Engels?
You know, as we go through life, our circumstances change. And you're assuming a huge responsibility and standing up to that responsibility. So I support your request.
Mr. Rice.
Mr. Chairman, one quick question.
Mr. Novosad.
Are you gonna keep both properties?
For the record, Patrick Cates, no, I intend to sell the house in Johnson Lane.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rice.
My best friend is a city manager, which is very akin to a county manager, except on a smaller scale. And he has lived in Chino for a good number of years. And while living in Chino, he was the city manager of Needles, of Barstow, and a couple of others. And he commuted great distances to get back and forth to work and somehow made it happen. And I have absolutely no problem with Mr. Cates living in Washoe Valley. Thank you.
So, Mr. Cates, as we've talked about this for a couple of months now, and this need, and I certainly understand and respect your support of your parents. I think that's important. I do understand also the extreme cost of maintaining two residences. You know, during my many years of employment, I had to make the decisions from time to time when I wanted to pursue other opportunities, how close I needed to move in order to make it affordable for me to get to that point of, and how long I wanted to spend on the freeways of Los Angeles to get to where I needed to go. So those are all personal decisions, and so I certainly don't think living certainly 30 minutes away outside of Douglas County is going to be detrimental to your performance as our county manager. And so I support this as well. as we have everybody that tends to visit, and I have to remind the Visitors Authority of this all the time. Anytime we promote people visiting our county, we're looking at potential residents because nobody wants to leave. So I'm sure that I'm confident that you and your wife will take the opportunity, should we address this and approve this, take the opportunity to, at some point in time, move into Douglas County in the future. And but I do recognize the cost process of trying to maintain your residences as well. So anyways, I also support this. At this time, then, this is a public, this is possible action. So are there any public comments here in chambers?
James McCall, for the record, as somebody whose father-in-law moved in with us last summer, 87 years old. We have an even smaller house, 1,325 square feet. I totally understand. You have my total support. Please do this for Mr. Cates.
Thank you. I was wondering if you were going to ask what he was going to sell his house for. Okay, since no other public comment here in chambers, Ms. Johnson, do we have public comment online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marsha Johnson for the record. At this time, we have one person online who has indicated they would like to provide public comment. Becca, do you have public comment on item number 8?
Buckeye Brown for the record, thank you. We read Mr. Cates' letter, makes perfect sense. His dad's 91 years old, drove his RV down to Arizona. He's ready to retire full-time, needs to do that. We're sympathetic to that. I think what the lady, the first lady that addressed council in their opening statements had to say was that Mr. Cates plays a pivotal role in this community. He's got his thumb on the pulse. He's playing both city manager. He's playing both mayor. He's the go-to guy. Really need somebody like that to have the pulse on Douglas County, walking the streets, talking to people, seeing things. The kind of presence that really requires a full-time localization. But we're sympathetic. We understand the need to adjust accordingly. However, Mr. Cates did receive a raise to compensate him for these expenditures and extra transportation costs. Perhaps he can sell the house and buy himself an RV so that he can participate in the wine walks, and he and his wife can take like an adventure travel vacation to Douglas County and do business 2 or 3 days out of the week and then head back home. Maybe he can start working on that RV park there off of Buckeye Road, so we got some place for people to do them kind of things. Maybe we don't need all that overhead now at the Minden Inn. Maybe we can consolidate some of them rents. Just saying. Thinking out loud. Power to you, Mr. Cates. Good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Any other public comment online?
Thank you,
Ms.
Mr.
Johnson.
Chair. Marsha Johnson for the record. At this time, there's no further public comment online.
Thank you. I'll bring it back to the board for action. Mr. Ingles, Commissioner Ingles.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Rice.
I move that we approve the first amendment to Patrick Cates' employment contract that is presented.
Motion by Commissioner Rice, seconded by Commissioner Ingles to approve the First Amendment to employment contract between Douglas County and County Manager Patrick Cates pursuant to his request to remove subsection F of paragraph 3, conditions of employment addressing residency requirements. Since no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. There you go, Mr. Cates. It's been requested that we take a break, so we will take a do we need a 20-minute break to 12 o'clock, or do we want to 10-minute? Okay, we'll take a 10-minute. We'll resume at 11:50. 10 minutes. Thank you. Thank you.
Recording stopped.
Okay, I'm going to call this meeting back to order. All 5 commissioners are present, and so
Recording in progress.
to item number 9 on the agenda for possible action, discussion to approve a $95,041 budget transfer from professional services 101-172-521.100 to the salaries line items within the finance department and reestablish the accountant senior position number 172.1010.03 effective July 1st, 2022. This is being presented by our Chief Financial Officer, Terry Willoughby.
Thank you, Terry Willoughby, for the record. In an effort to deal with some of the recruitment issues in our department, we had converted a previous position to a professional services contract. And we've had an employee working remotely over the last year and come to discover that we really would like to have someone that's in the office at most of the time. So we're asking for permission to reinstate that position as an employee at this time.
Okay, commissioners, questions of Ms. Willoughby? Since no questions from the commissioners, we'll go to public comment. Is there any public comment here in chambers? Since no public comment here, Ms. Johnson, do we have any public comment online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marcia Johnson for the record. At this time, there's no public comment online.
Bring it back to the board then. Any other questions? Mr. Tarkanian?
I'll make a motion to approve $95,041 budget transfer from the professional services 101-172-521.100 to the salaries line items within the finance department and establish the accountant senior position effective July 1st, 2022 as presented.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Tarkanian, seconded by Commissioner Noastad to approve a $95,041 budget transfer from professional services 101-172-510.100 to the salaries line items within the finance department and reestablish the accountant senior position number 172.1010.03 effective July 1st, 2022. Sensing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. It is approaching noon. However, I want to inform the public that in those online that I've conversed with the other commissioners, and we are not going to be taking a lunch break today. We're just going to go directly into item number 10 and finish it off with item 11, and then free up the public and ourselves to grab something to eat afterwards. So I just wanted to inform the public of that. So item number 10 for possible action to discussion to consider requests for funding from Douglas County's allocation of American Rescue Plan Act, more commonly known as ARPA funds, presented by Chief Financial Officer Terry Willoughby and County Manager Patrick Cates.
Thank you, Terry Willoughby, for the record. As you know, we received this money almost a year ago. We were expecting the second installment probably tomorrow or today. And we've brought this forward back several times to the board. And at this time, we are bringing the remainder of the request back to the board for for consideration. And with that, I'll turn it over to our county manager, Patrick Cates. We've done an extensive outreach to receive applications on this program, and he'll go through the rest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Patrick Cates. Let me pull up my spreadsheet and share that.
and Terry will be for the record again before. So we did receive the board's direction to claim this as lost revenue, which allows us to use it for more purposes. However, all this funding is still subject to Code of Federal Regulations. So we will be monitoring this very closely in the Finance Department.
So we're having some technical issues here. Okay, okay, some of this is a little hard to see, but as I get farther down, it'll get easier. So this is a spreadsheet that I've modified. There was a supplemental spreadsheet that went out that had all the ARPA projects to be considered, and I had ranked them myself and made some recommendations on funding. This is a little bit of a modification of that for discussion purposes today. First of all, we started out with almost $9.5 million in ARPA funds. Previously, we've had approval for about $250,000 in expenditures. And then at the April meeting was the first time we really fully considered projects. The board allocated to about $2.3 million for projects. Most of that, some of it went to the sheriff's office for equipment, East Fork Fire, as well as to community development for some feasibility studies. That leaves a balance of just shy of $7 million. And I'll briefly touch on these. Again, I've organized them in a priority ranking that I established that I thought was a reasonable place to start for the board. Of course, it's the board's prerogative to change this in any way you see fit. First item on the list, actually, I want to go up here and just point this out. So you had approved for community development, a feasibility study for the Gardnerville Ranchos, Gardnerville Water Company intertie. It's subsequently been brought to my attention that that work's already been done. Gardnerville GID, Gardnerville Ranchos GID has already completed that. So I don't think there's a need for that funding at this time. So the first item that I put on was reversing that prior decision of the board and putting that money back in the pot. The next item on the list is a request for funding for grant writing professional services. This is something we've talked about, I think is very important to be able to leverage some of the increased funding that's coming through the state through their infrastructure and ARPA funds. Some of those programs aren't even rolled out yet, but we want to make sure we have some money set aside to help with grant writing. A lot of smaller grants, staff are perfectly capable of writing grants themselves, but when you get into more complex grants, they can get pretty expensive. I can tell you for Muller Parkway, when we submitted our build grant, we spent north of $200,000 on an outside consultant to prepare that grant application. It's a very big application, it's very technical. But anyway, I think it's very important to allocate money for that. Next item on the list is the ERP system. This is the county's financial system. The current system is at end of life. The vendor has indicated they are trying to convert all of their members. They won't be making modifications to it in the future. So we really need to allocate some funding for this. When we discussed this back in April, the request was for $500,000. But subsequent to that, CFO Willoughby has done some outreach, and we don't think that's enough money to do a full conversion of the ERP system. So we've asked for a budget of $1 million out of this fund. Next item on the list, this also is new. This is the Johnson Lane flood control litigation. You're familiar with our legal requirement to construct detention basins in the Johnson Lane area, retention basins. I always get that wrong. I'm not even sure which is which. But anyway, we have that obligation. Our cost estimates for that and the amount of money we've had to spend on the environmental assessment, which wasn't planned for, the money we have set aside as a result of the settlement isn't sufficient to construct all those basins. This would fund the difference. We can get that done. That's a pretty important project for the county. Next item on the list, number 5, is NEPA assessment for Moeller Parkway. So Moeller Parkway currently is funded to construct 2 lanes with county funds as required under the Park Ranch Development Agreement. But we are still chasing federal dollars to be able to complete the entire scope of Moeller Parkway, which include 4 lanes, roundabouts, multimodal path, flood control projects. In order for us to receive federal highway funds for that, we need to have the environmental assessment done on that right of way. And we've not done that yet. So getting this done will make us much more competitive and eligible to receive those funds that we're currently chasing. Next item on the list, number 6, Buckeye Culvert Crossing Grant Match. You may recall one of the feasibility studies that you've already allocated fund to was for a culvert under Buckeye. As you get past JLEC, there's a dip in the road. It's prone to flooding. It's an important route for first responders. This opportunity has come up since our meeting in April, where the state has some funding available that they're willing to grant to us for this to actually execute the project, to construct this, but we have to have matching funds. So the request is for those matching funds so we can take advantage of that opportunity to get that work done. Next item on the list is the public radio system. We've discussed this. You saw the study that was done on our radio system. This was the estimated budget for phase 1, which is site improvements. We think that's definitely a priority need for the county as it affects our sheriff's office and the fire districts as well. Next item on the list, item number 8, Moeller Parkway conduit and pull boxes. So as we were working on Moeller Parkway design and the construction of the 2 lanes, we were trying to value engineer, which is a fancy word for reduce costs, that project so that we could fund it ourselves. And we took out plans to put conduit and pull boxes along the route. What that does for us is it puts the infrastructure in the ground so that we can later expand broadband connectivity throughout the community. Putting it in while you're building it is a heck of a lot cheaper than tearing up the road to put conduit in afterwards. So we thought that was very important to our goals of expanding broadband in the community. Next item on the list, similar topic, broadband matching funds for future projects. I'm recommending $500,000 be set aside for that. So the state is receiving federal funds to expand broadband. I can't remember the exact dollar amount. It was over $30 million that the state is getting. And the way this is going to work, it requires local government involvement and requires local government to partner with providers. Lisa Granahan has been leading this effort for the county. She's doing a great job. She started out not knowing much about broadband, and now she's our county guru. And there's a unique opportunity to get funding to expand broadband. Particularly, we're looking in South County, which is really underserved. We're working through that and talking to different providers. We want to be positioned to be able to provide some matching funds so we'll be competitive for those grants. If we do that, I think we can move the needle for some of our residents that don't have very good internet service today. Next item on the list, number 10, document scanning project. This is a cooperative proposal from community development and the assessor's office to digitize a lot of their documents to make them more accessible to the public. I'm always in favor of anything that is a digital government. And I think that's certainly worthwhile. Next item on the list is the Rancho's Multimodal Trail Connector. You may recall that you did provide some funding for a feasibility study for that. What I'm requesting is that you increase that funding by another roughly $500,000. That is the estimates to be able to acquire the remaining right-of-ways that are needed for that project, as well as to do the design for that project. And although we still need to update the trails program, this project has been identified as a high priority for the county for a long time. And I think it's a good opportunity to further it along, which will definitely have benefit for the community, particularly the Ranchos. Next item on the list, number 12, Copeland Warehouse Culvert Replacement. We did hear from the Arts Council this morning about the award that they got. Their plans are to turn the Copeland Lumber Building into a performing arts center. And if you've never toured it, I would recommend it. But they basically have a culvert that runs through the middle of the floor of the interior of the building. It's part of the old irrigation system. Most of that's now undergrounded and goes down County Road. But they got this old culvert sitting through their building. So kind of one of the first steps of them rehabbing that building to make it a suitable arts location. Next item on the list, Tahoe Prosperity Center, Envision Tahoe Action Plan Implementation. The county's been partnering with Tahoe Prosperity Center for quite a while and has helped with the development of the action plan. And they have an implementation plan that they want to go through. It focuses on housing needs as well as trying to provide an environment for entrepreneurs and startups to thrive in the Tahoe Basin. And of course, Lisa Granahan has a lot more information on that, but I'm recommending half funding. They asked for funding for 2 years. Half of that would be for 1 year. And similarly, the Housing Action Plan implementation, we participated in those studies in the past. So now they're looking at an implementation plan. I know the city of South Lake Tahoe has contributed funding to this, and that's always a very difficult issue. And we don't have a lot of options for affordable housing in Douglas County in the basin or in the county in general. City of South Lake Tahoe tends to have more opportunities for that. Nevertheless, I think it's important that we continue to be a partner in that. Our businesses, the casinos and the local businesses up there really depend on that workforce, regardless of which side of the state line they live in. Next item on the list is the town of Genoa church foundation repair. We're asking for some funding for feasibility of church foundation repair. That's going to be a big project. I think we gave them a little bit of funding to get started. Town of Genoa has a very limited budget. Likewise, town of Genoa, item 16, just to provide them a little bit of funding for maintenance and grading of roads. Next item on the list is town of Minden, Westwood Park improvements, pavilion and splash pad. They had planned to construct this part of their CIP. What they've been experiencing is cost increases for these projects. So they're having some difficulty funding that out of existing resources. I think it's an important amenity for the community in Minden and recommend providing some funding for that. Next item on the list, excuse me. Item 18, this is sidewalks for 10th Street to Highway 395. 10th Street runs next to Cooked and behind the post office, about a block behind us, or excuse me, a block behind the courthouse. I forgot where I was there for a minute. I had originally indicated in an earlier draft that it was going to provide connectivity to Highway 88, and that was not correct. This is between 395 and it runs down through and past County Road. County Road does provide connectivity to 88. The town has provided sidewalks along County Road, which is a county maintained road. And it's very nice. I walk it myself. I know a lot of county employees do. And they want to extend it all the way to 88, but they don't have sufficient funding. This would allow some connectivity between 395 and County Road, and then indirectly through 88. It's a road that doesn't have a lot of intersections or stop signs, so it's used a lot to transverse between 395 and behind those neighborhoods and Minden down to County Road. First responders use it, and there's no sidewalk along a section of it. So I thought that was worthy of consideration. And then I'll cover the ones that I did not recommend funding, but I just want to talk about a little bit about my approach and why I picked some things and not others. Very difficult. There's no way to make everybody happy with this. We have over $50 million worth of requests to consider, and we're down to less than 7 million to allocate. In terms of the towns versus the GIDs, I know Gardnerville Rancho GID submitted some requests and certainly understand their needs. The towns, the reason that I selected some of the projects for the towns is the towns are part of the county. They are part of county government, and the Board of County Commissioners has authority over them. The town boards are advisory to the commission. They're part of our organization. And I thought that a way to spread the wealth, if you will, to different residents across a community was to give the town some of that funding. GIDs certainly provide a lot of essential services to people, but they're not part of the county. They're separate legal entities. They have their own tax base and their own revenue sources. And in the case of Gardnerville GID, they have a responsibility as an enterprise to provide their infrastructure for water services to their residents. And they're supposed to be funding that out of the fees that they generate through that. Just like the Douglas County Water Utility, we generate all of our fees for our capital projects from the ratepayers. For that reason, I felt it was not a good move to fund that infrastructure project or those requests for Gardnerville Rancho's GID. Just kind of philosophically why I've got some towns in there recommended and I don't have Gardnerville Rancho's. Continue on down the list, some of the things I didn't recommend funding for. Town of Genoa had some other projects that were fairly small, replace some AC units, tree trimming, painting of the church. These were all pretty minor, and I thought that, I recommended a few other things for them, and these are things they can probably work on in their regular budget in future years. Item 22 and 23 were both proposed through Lisa Granahan, Economic Vitality. The Nevada Small Business Development Center to be able to do technical assistance and training for businesses, as well as Join to do job training. I think these are good projects. However, one of the things that we were trying to do was to avoid being duplicative with the state, because the state has a lot of ARPA funds. And I know when we did our small business grant program, where we were able to help 60+ businesses, which is great. But right after we launched that, the state launched a very similar program, and we were kind of fumbling over each other. So I steered away from those because I'm seeing the state moving in the direction of funding some of that type of stuff. Suicide Prevention Network, I'll talk about them, and Trinity Lutheran Child Care Center and Family Support Council kind of collectively. These are our local nonprofits doing great work for the community and providing good services. I really thought they each had compelling cases of how this money would benefit them and the people they serve. I just struggled with the narrow focus of the benefit that it would have to the community, if that makes sense. I'm trying to look broadly at big strategic things that we could fund. So I shied away from these a little bit. I also do think for some of this stuff, there's likely some opportunities with the state. I know the state recently announced a program to try to help with child care centers as an example. So that's why I didn't do that, but that was a really tough decision. I had initially recommend funding for them, but as I went through it and tried to look at strategic priorities, I shied away from those. The next one is the Kale Complete Street project. We talked a lot about this back in April. I pulled this off the list. I do think it is an important project that has direct county benefit. I know there's a lot of talk about Oliver Park GID and their ability to pay for this. But essentially, from the county's perspective, this is about stormwater and load sediments going into Lake Tahoe and our requirements for that. That's why I think that this should be a priority for the county. However, we're currently looking at other funding sources for this. I think we have multiple possibilities. We do have TOT that we're collecting that is eligible for transportation in the Tahoe Township. That was the subject of the microtransit meeting that we had up in the lake. That fund does have a balance in it that could be tapped into for this. We've also worked with our congressional delegation, and we have some commitment from all of our congressional delegation, both of our senators and congressmen, to request this as community grant funding through the annual budget process. My understanding is they've all agreed to that. We made their short list, which is really good. They can only fund a tiny fraction or request funding for a tiny fraction of the projects that they get requests for. From here, it goes to the two money committee chairs, and they will make some decisions about what will or will not be included in the next federal fiscal year budget. Now, the federal fiscal year budget starts October 1. However, Congress has a habit of not timely approving their budgets. They often do continuing resolutions, and sometimes it can be well into the fiscal year. So that's certainly not a guaranteed funding source. I think the room tax is certainly a promising source. We'd like to let that play out over the next few months and see what kind of commitment we get and consider those other fundings. So I took that off the list. Again, I think, the Oliver Park issue really created some hesitancy to fund this, and I understand that. And I think we have other options for that. Town of Minden requested funding for street rehabilitation. I figured street rehabilitation is kind of a regular responsibility of the town, and I'd recommended some fundings for some other things for them already. Gardnerville Ranchos, GID, we talked about those two projects already. Again, I know they're important for the ranchos. I don't think this is the best funding source for that. I do think there will be more state funds available. The state hasn't even issued their granting program for funds that this will likely qualify for. They've done a listening tour, they've took suggestions, but they haven't even set that stuff up. So I'm pretty confident they'll have some opportunities for some state funding sources in the future. Next two items were submitted by citizens. One was to repave Chichester, $12 million. That's more money than we have, and I think that's a basic responsibility of the town of Gardnerville. And defensible space, talked about some funding for defensible space, really didn't define what the funding was. So I didn't make any recommendations there. The next few are ones that we got from East Fork, the town of Genoa, and China Springs for lost revenue. There were some provisions in ARPA for declaring lost revenue. Those apply to the county as a whole, not to these specific entities, so they don't really qualify. The next two items on the list, 36 and 37, the Judicial Law Enforcement Center. This board already took care of that with other funds. We found another funding source for that, and the broadband study with WNDD was previously funded as well. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I have modified this spreadsheet a little bit. I put some columns in there representing each commissioner, and I know you have to take public comment, but once you're ready, we can go through this and kind of mark the ones that try to get some consensus on what the commission wants to fund. And then I've got a rolling total off to the right of how much funds are available, and hopefully we can work through that whenever you're ready. And that concludes my overview. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cates. I really appreciate that. I have taken a long, hard look at this. And we've received a tremendous amount of public input on this. I'm sure all of the commissioners did, because the many emails we got were copied on all 5 of us. And I concur with your statement. We're only about 40 million short of achieving everything. Only 40 million short. So while everybody that's on this list has their own individual commendable argument for funding, no matter what we do, we're going to be disappointing a lot of people on an individual basis for one reason or another. So I've taken an opportunity to travel around the county and take a look at a number of projects that have requested funding, to take a look at the individual needs, certainly infrastructurally. Obviously not the, although Mr. Delaire provided us with an understanding today of the needs for the document scanning process. So I concur with just about everything that you've laid out in regards to your county manager recommendations. I appreciate your clarification of the stormwater Johnson Lane flood mitigation litigation, because I was under the understanding that we had the ability through our stormwater department to handle that, but you've done a good job of laying out why we don't. So I appreciate that. When I first looked at the spreadsheet in April regarding, for instance, the town of Genoa, something that you haven't recommended. So I'm going to go into that a little bit in my comments. The town of Genoa, for instance, the painting of the church, it's only $5,650. And I thought it would be a good idea to have a community paint project. We go out and buy some buckets of paint and get a community group together and go up and paint it. But apparently that's been done about 20 times. And there's 20 layers of paint on there now. And that's not solving the problem. And so, and I'm not even sure $5,600 is going to cover that. So I'm trying to look at some of these ones that you didn't recommend and seeing where we might be able to cure those. I certainly appreciate what you said in regards to the Kale Complete Street project, and in individual conversations, I understand, and I think the board understands the tremendous need for accomplishing that process. I don't think there's any of us that don't believe that needs to be done. However, the use of ARPA funds is probably not the appropriate use of those ARPA funds. When we have 27 GIDs in this county and we select one to give them 1.4 million is a little bit out of whack in my mind, especially since we have the ability to fund that through the TOT that we are required to set aside for roads and transportation. So that's something that we've talked about and something I feel is really important. So even though it's not on your recommended list, I think it's important that our residents understand that, once again, we recognize the need for that to be done. However, we feel like it can be probably done through other financial sources. I think it's also important, this originally, what was it, $100,000 for a grant writer? Is that where we are on that?
For the record, Patrick Cates. So the request, we increased that from last time because I don't think 100,000 was adequate. So we put 250 in there. I recommended 381. And what I did there was I balanced out, after I was done making recommendations, I balanced out the remainder of funds. Like I said, that we could blow that in one big grant.
And I think that's absolutely critical. Okay. I think that's absolutely critical because, once again, we have 27 GIDs in this county, and we need to be able, as a county, to help coordinate with the GIDs in going after these other grants, both the state ARPA funds and also the national federal infrastructure funds. So to me, that is an absolutely critical position, but I hope that the GIDs and the towns also grab onto that ability to go out, identify what projects on this list that we cannot fund because we just don't have the $40 million to do that, but being able to go out and help generate those funds for accomplishment of those projects. Because I think we all understand that they do need to be done. It's just that we just don't have the financial resources here in the county to do that. Ms. Willoughby, you had a comment.
I am Terry Willoughby for the record. I have a couple comments. One about Genoa and some of the smaller projects. They have two other funds besides their operating fund. One is, and both are available for capital projects. And between the two, they have about $100,000. So I could certainly work with the new town manager when they're appointed or the acting town manager to fund some of those projects that weren't selected for ARPA funding through those funds. And as far as the grant writing, we would totally reach out to the GIDs and anyone in the county. My goal would be to do an RFP for a grant writing professional services contract, not selecting. It's not going to be a position. It would be professional services because it's limited in nature.
Okay, thank you. The other thing I looked at, the private citizen, and they didn't identify a dollar amount down here on defensible space program. And obviously in our county, especially in South County, where it's very fire susceptible, that's an extremely important area. They didn't identify requests here. I did attend a program by Living with Fire in our county, in our TRE Community Center last Tuesday night, and was made aware of the fact that BLM and the U.S. Forest Service have granting opportunities for our private citizens to work on this. Obviously, what I indicated to that GID down there on that night was that our population down there either is too old to do this or doesn't have the financial resources to make sure that their homes are protected from fire from defensible space processes. And so I was very, very impressed and very encouraged and very delighted to hear that BLM and U.S. Forest Service both have opportunities for assisting our homeowners with the ability to make their homes fire safe. So that was great. My only questions in regards to your recommendations, I struggle with the allocation of $35,000 for looking into affordable housing opportunities in the Tahoe Basin. I just, I travel up there, I see it. I just don't see the opportunities for affordable housing, and to put more money into that process and effort just doesn't make sense to me. I think we can use that $35,000. I know it's not a lot of money, and both of those, both the Envision Tahoe and the Housing Action Plan just don't seem to be wise expenditures to me. I don't know what my fellow commissioners are going to say about that, but I think that even though it's only $70,000 in those two categories, once again, I look at the, I look at the painting project, I look at Family Support Council, I look at, those types of, what was it? There's a Trinity Lutheran Child Care Center. I'm not sure that those funds, that $70,000 can't be better spent in a couple of other areas. So those are my thoughts. Otherwise, I'm fairly good with everything else you've recommended, and I appreciate you taking the due diligence to go through this and really think about what we should and what we should not fund and what our financial abilities are in that process. Obviously, we all wish that we had $50 million to spend and just write a check and get this over with, but we're not blessed with that. So anyways, we have to unfortunately cherry pick here and see what we can do. So anyways, I see a hand down at the other end of the table, Commissioner Tarkanian.
Thank you. I got a couple questions. First of all, with respect to the Kell project, is it $1.4 million to repair the road itself, or is half of that, which is what I've heard, is for the sidewalk and trail work?
I have to go back and look at the project sheet. I believe they have funding for, I believe that includes both the sidewalk and the road, if I remember correctly.
And the trail?
Is she online? Okay. Megan Kelly from the Conservation District is online if we want to go to her. Yeah, she's the one that's, yeah, she knows this in detail.
Oh, yeah. Hi, everybody. This is Megan Kelly. We're down to needing approximately 1 million because we were able to receive a commitment from Oliver Park GID for $200,000 commitment to the road rehabilitation. But yeah, the grant funding is, I've split it up based on stormwater, utilities, road reconstruction, and then bike lanes. There's bike lanes, a sidewalk, and a bike path extension. The county funding, hopefully if it's somewhat more discretionary, that's kind of why I was looking for ARPA. The hardest thing to fund is really the undergrounding, the overhead utilities. But yeah, we could apply it mostly to the road and bike paths, but our funding need in that category only equals approximately 700,000 at this point. But one of the things that grants really don't take into account is we literally cannot reconstruct the road without redoing the water line because the current water line under that road can't withstand vibratory compaction. So without replacing that water line, there is no road reconstruction, there is no path, there is no bike lanes, there is no sidewalks.
I understand that's the county's biggest concern too.
Yeah, so anyway, that the total breakdown for basically roads, bike paths needed at this point is 700,000. I still need 700,000 for utilities. And I do think 200,000 of Oliver Park GID funds could go to either of those. So I'm down to needing 1.2 million. So it's 700 between 700 for roads and paths and 700 for utilities, with 200,000 taken out, either one that I can't get funding for, because those are more discretionary.
Did I mishear you? I thought you said when you first got on, you only needed 1 million.
Yeah, I'm working on trying to secure at least a match from the Tahoe Beach Club for the Oliver Park GID funds. I haven't gotten that in writing yet, but I'm still working on that. So I'm hoping to be down to 1 million within the next month or two.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so my deal is I want to talk first about Carroll Road. That road needs to be repaired, and I don't see how we can say, okay, we're going to wait till a bill gets passed, which hasn't been passed yet, according to our conversation on Tuesday. And then we hope that once it gets passed, they're going to allocate it sometime quickly when the budget is finally approved, which we know it's not going to be in September, it could be later. I know TOT money has to be used for that. First of all, there's $2 million in that account. It's sitting there and it's not being used. And I get emails from so many people complaining about the road on Carroll Road and the urgency it needs to get done. I don't see any purpose in waiting any longer if the money's sitting there in the account, it can be used for that. And that's what the TOT money was for. So I've expressed this concern to our chairman. I hope we can get this money approved immediately for Carroll Road through that and not through the ARPA funds. Okay, so I got a couple other questions with respect to this bill. The way you analyze this, I understand your distinction between a town and the GIDs and how, the GIDs have revenue that comes in is supposed to fund this. But this money coming in for ARPA is given to the counties to take care of the county residents, because they don't give money to the GIDs, do they? Do they have separate money grants from ARPA for GIDs? Because I know they give it to the state, to the cities, and to the counties. I'm sorry.
Terry Willoughby for the record. The towns are not separate legal entities. We are one county. The GIDs are separate legal entities, and they would have to apply to the state directly.
That wasn't my question. I guess my question is, do ARPA funds, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, ARPA funds go to the state, the counties, and the cities, not to GIDs or other legal entities, correct?
That's correct. And the towns are part of the county. They're
Oh,
part of our allocation.
Okay, so this federal money that is being taken out of taxpayer dollars is going to the state, the counties, and the cities to benefit everybody in the state, the counties, and the cities. And the GIDs are part of the county. I mean, they may have their own tax base and all this other stuff, but they're still residents of the county. They're paying federal tax dollars, which is where this money comes from. So I don't see a distinction there, but I don't have a big disagreement with much of what you said. I agree with Chairman Gardner about the $235,000 to the Tahoe Prosperity Center. One of them is for the first one you said was for entrepreneurial growth, but I've been advised recently that Lake Tahoe is trying to implement some things to stop tourism, the more advanced tourism, and limit the growth, which is ironic since we just spent so much money on the event center. But that's money that could be used, paid for through the Lake Tahoe revenues. And then the second one, it says something about, say, we're matching already the city of South Lake Tahoe's contributions. Would this $35,000 be in addition to what South Lake Tahoe is matching, or is this part of matching South Lake Tahoe?
For the record, Patrick Cates, if I remember the write-up correctly, the city of South Lake Tahoe has committed $70,000. I do know we have somebody here from the Tahoe Prosperity Center if they want to provide any clarification on those projects.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Shelby Cook with the Tahoe Prosperity Center. I'm here on behalf of Heidi Hildrum. I'm more than happy to answer any questions about the funding for these programs. So the $35,000 is matching the City of South Lake's contribution. They have dedicated $70,000 to cover a 2-year span for our housing work, which was our original request to the Commission today. And this is going to implementing the South Shore Housing Action Plan, which Douglas County was a part of the formation of. It got stalled a little bit during COVID, but things are picking up now. We have a dedication from the City of South Lake Tahoe, El Dorado County, as well as a recent match from Washoe County of $100,000. Okay.
So those are my two concerns, the same as the chairman on the Tahoe Prosperity Center, affordable housing in Lake Tahoe, and we're going to do a study of 70,000, and what's that going to get us? I'm not so sure. If it could achieve something wonderful, I'm not so sure about it. So the next one I have a problem with, I expressed this in our 2-on-1 meeting too. I don't see how we can say, okay, we're going to allocate $103,000 to the town of Genoa for their roads and maintenance, but we're not going to allocate money for Carroll Road or for other roads that are just as important. And I have a real problem because I had some personal experience with the road that was so beat up, worse than Carroll Road, that led into a business, a mobile park, a church, a school bus drove, picked up kids there. And it took a long time to get only part of that road paved. The whole thing isn't even paved. In fact, after they've done it, there's still parts that aren't even paved. Why we would say, okay, well, we're going to give this to the town of Genoa because they have limited resources, but we're not going to take care of a road that is not part of a GID that also services. And there's probably more other examples of that too. Carroll Road is another example. I certainly am not in favor of giving the town of Genoa $103,000 for their roads and when it's not the same to others. I think that was it. Oh, no. I know I had a question. With respect to the grant money, I think that's wonderful. As long as you're very careful on what you're applying for the grants and you carefully weigh the chances of success to what it's costing, because we spent $200,000 on Mola Park when we didn't get anything back from that, and that certainly is a hit. I would like to see, because as a representative of the Ranchos GOD, I'm the kind of commissioner of that area, and you're stating that they should really reach out to the state and the federal government for their grants. that I hope that some of this additional, it started at 100,000, now we're at 381, 281,000 will go to help write some of these grants or work with the Ranchos GID to apply for these grants so they can get the money needed for their two projects. And that was it.
Terry Willoughby for the record. So we have a grant policy that outlines our application process. So any grant application that comes through finance and reviewed by my staff or myself before it's submitted. If there's a grant match required, it goes to our internal review committee and reviewed there and sometimes comes to the board for consideration. So we know that we have funding in place for that match.
All right, thank you very much. That's all I had.
Commissioner Ingalls?
We'll direct this to Ms. Willoughby, perhaps you know. Historically, in 2017-18, the grand jury dissolved the RDA 1 in Genoa. There was a substantial amount of money in that account, and it was designated for the church and the kitchen and foundation, many of the things that are mentioned here. Do you know offhand how much money is left in that account? Thank you.
Terry Willoughby for the record, there's enough, what's the street? There's enough money in that fund left to do Vista Grande, which was a pre-approved project. They're just waiting for the bids and the final. Those Genoa projects have been completed. They were approved by the board. Those were completed last year. So it's not like they went away. Those projects were completed. I'd be happy to bring a report back to the board on those.
Thank you. So as I understand it, what you're saying is that, and I think we discussed this before, but the completion of Vista Grande from basically the Best Buy, Walmart, shopping center, the behind road that would then connect to Jacks Valley Road. That's where we're looking at. And that's what the funds are now reserved for and to complete that connection. Is that correct?
Terry will be, that's correct. That project has been approved by previous boards, but it's already earmarked and just waiting for bids and to begin construction.
Right. And those funds and that process would then deplete everything that's available in remaining in RDA 1. Is that right?
Terry, that's correct. That's the only thing.
Thank you. Commissioner Rice.
Thank you, sir.
And Terry, will be the three projects that Commissioner Ingalls was referring to that were completed through the RDA. One were the Genoa Town Church retaining wall, the Genoa bandstand remodel, and oh, that's not it. I'll find those three. There was three projects that were approved.
Okay, thank you, sir. First of all, let me say that this process has been painful for everybody. I belong to some of the organizations that are on the not funded list, and I would very much like to advocate for them, but having looked at the entire amount available and the needs, it's painful. I would disagree with our chair in that I think that our participation with the Tahoe Prosperity Center and especially the match with South Lake Tahoe is something that we really should do. We sometimes complain about the lake being all these different counties and nobody working together. But the Tahoe Prosperity is doing their best to bring all the sides together. And we are complaining about that they're getting more out of the transportation than we are, which is true in the beginning, but not the plan overall. And so even though that's not part of this, but it's part of my argument that we need to participate with the other agencies at the lake. The lake is part of Douglas County. The lake is part of South Lake Tahoe. I don't much agree with the political direction that's gone, but that's a whole different ball of wax, or a bucket of apples, or whatever you want to put it in. But I really believe that we need to participate in the Tahoe Prosperity programs. 35,000 for the Envision Tahoe Action Plan consideration is very important, that we stay part of the process. And I don't want to see Douglas County bail on that, nor do I wish to see us bail on our matching funds for South Lake Tahoe. I have looked at this, and some of the things I wonder, what would I do away with so that I could fund something else? And I think that our county manager has done a masterful job of I don't want to say weeding out, because none of these are weeds, but there are some that the financing is more imperative than in other things. There are other forms of financing some of these other programs that are on the not funded list, and such as Kale Park. Trust me, Kale is very high on my priority list. I pass by there every day. Luckily, I don't have any school-age children, so I don't have to worry about transversing Kale Drive. And I've sometimes said that we need to get some volunteer Volkswagens so we can put them in the potholes so we can drive over the top. But that isn't going to happen either. I'm very hopeful that the federal funds come through soon. And I don't know if there's anything that we could do between now and then to alleviate the situation. It's not our road. It is part of the county. And something has to be done, and we have to be part of the solution. But at this point, as much as I would love to fund the project totally, because it's going to be a great project and it'll do wonders for the folks that live down there, which, by the way, is one of the very few areas of affordable housing that we have at Lake Tahoe. And I would like to see the underserved people that live in that neighborhood get the broadband they deserve, get the water they deserve, get the ability to drive back and forth to work without having to redo their suspension every 2 years. So, however, the money just isn't there right now. So I would recommend going with the entire list of funded projects that the county managers put in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. And I appreciate what you're saying about Kale Road. And we talk about the underfunded GID there, Oliver Park GID. And we did receive a tremendous amount of input from the residents. However, I would ask any of those residents who travel up and down Kale Road on a daily basis to please come down to the TRE area, the Topaz Ranch Estates area. They're also a very, very, very underfunded GID because of the proper values down there. And if you want to talk about potholes in roads that I drive daily, a couple times a day at least, you're not going to see any more beat up roads in this county than are existing in Topaz Ranch Estates. So the minute I try to spend funds out of ARPA for the roads or the Kale Drive is the minute that I have 1,500 to 2,000 residents down in that area just at my doorstep beating me up. So once again, I understand and I recognize the need for it, but I also realize that we're raising TOT taxes up there in the Tahoe Township that are available for this repair. And so that's my response to the residents and the constituents that we have up in that area is that, yes, we recognize the need. We'll correct that need, but we'll correct it through TOT taxes versus the ARPA funds. So I appreciate your feelings in that regard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not suggesting that we expend the ARPA funds for that. I'm simply saying that I understand the need, and I wish there was something more that we could do at this moment, but there's not that I can see.
Thank you.
And I am recommending that we approve the list for funding that the county manager has put before us.
Okay. Mr. Noasad, Commissioner Noasad, I see your hand up, Mr. Commissioner Ingles, but Commissioner Noasad hasn't weighed in yet.
I was just directing traffic.
Okay, Commissioner Ingles then.
I agree with Commissioner Rice. We have a list. Some of these things have already been approved. We're going to be here into the next millennium at the rate we're going. And so we can just start going on some of these items that have not been approved. They're still for consideration and knock this thing out. We're never gonna satisfy everything and everybody. So I'm in favor of getting this done because the longer we wait, the more inflation is going to eat up money, the more expensive these projects are going to be. And let's get this done.
Okay, without further questions by the board, we need to go to public comment on this. So we'll do that. And after we have public comment, both here and online, then we'll bring it back to the board. And then we can go down the list and check off what we can agree on. Would that be acceptable? Ms. Willoughby, you have comments?
Terry Willoughby for the record. I just wanted to provide the amounts paid for RDA 1 and the projects that were approved in 2020 for Commissioner Ingles. One was a Genoa Town Hall renovation at $750,000. That's been completed. The other one was the Genoa Town Kitchen renovation. And the third was the Genoa Town Church retaining wall upgrade. So all three were approved as part of the fiscal year 1920 capital improvement plan and funded through RDA 1.
Is there any money left in those accounts?
Terry will be it's all allocated to the Vista Grande project already.
Thank you.
Okay, sensing that, we'll go to public comment. At this time, we'll open public comment. I remind you each person has a maximum of 3 minutes. Don't feel obligated to take all 3 minutes if you don't need it, but you do have up to 3 minutes. Please sign in and state your name. Print your name if you would, please, for our clerks to be able to decipher. Mr. McCallum, you want to teach him how to, there you go, you got it.
Afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Gordon Pasley. I'm the chairman of the Genoa Town Advisory Board, and I'd like to address some of the misinformation that's going on in this room. First of all, the bandstand was provided and paid for by the Friends of Genoa, privately funded and donated from the citizens. And then as far as the maintenance of the road, it is not a regular grading, Commissioner Tarkanian, that we're dealing with. If you would like to consider it standard maintenance, we have a problem because our town revenue and our number one source of revenue is the candy dance, which was canceled. And so we lost over $300,000 during that event. There is no way that the town can, without revenue reimbursement, which apparently the town doesn't qualify, there's no way we can pay for any of those maintenance items, whether it's painting of the church, the roads, the AC units. We did during the RDA ask for money for the church foundation, which we got none. We got the retaining wall is what we got. So we were kind of left out on that. As far as the town church, I would also like to address, there's about a 6-inch drop in the foundation currently, and you're about to lose that church if we do not do something about that foundation. When that church was built, it was built on a rock foundation, and it is settled and Mother Nature has taken its toll on it. So without you even considering giving us a reimbursement, because we're apparently not part of the county or our county as a whole, there is no way that we can pay for any of these items whatsoever.
Terry Willoughby for the record, the towns are part of the county, so that when we did our lost revenue calculation, the town's revenue was included in that. It's not on a countywide basis. The towns are more like they're a slightly higher level than a department of the county.
So we are asking for the full amount of the church foundation, which is a little over $1 million. We are asking for reimbursement of our lost revenue, because without that, you've crippled this town. The town they have no money. We don't have new houses being built in our town. We don't have property taxes and new houses being built. So our source of revenue and our sole, over 75% of our revenue comes from the candy dance, which was canceled due to the pandemic. So if the ARPA funds weren't meant for this, what were they meant for? Thank you for your time, and we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
James McCallum for the record. I am on the Ranchos GID board, but I'm not speaking for them. I'm speaking for myself. I want to start out positive. Really appreciate the trail. It is something indicated by a lot of our residents that they want. It is in our master plan, which didn't get accepted as part of the county's master plan, but we do appreciate that. I know it'll mean a lot to a lot of people. I was hoping that we would get something towards at least the engineering on the intertie. I believe the intertie is important to the whole county, not just to us. At this time, we're doing the pipeline replacement. We really didn't expect any help. We just informed the county of what we're going through. $14 million. It has to be done. It's urgent. The booster station, we were going to do an underground booster station. Is what we had. We're just going to upgrade it. NDEP came in and said, no, it has to be above ground. That's another $1.5 million. Sewer line replacement. So these are things that normally we can handle. The $14 million requires bonding. The other things, we're very good with our money. We actually are. We have a good reserve fund. We could have done the intertie without any help. We could have done all these things without any help, except that this pipeline replacement is urgent. So I was hoping to get some help. Maybe just the engineering done on the intertie would have made the intertie a shovel-ready project. So where I appreciate the trail, I wish we'd gotten a little more consideration, especially on the intertie. I think it serves the whole county. I think that having the biggest water system not attached to the other water systems is not a good thing. So with that, again, I'll thank you for the trail. Thank you.
Thank you.
Afternoon, commissioners. As I said before, my name is Shelby Cook. I am with the Tahoe Prosperity Center. We serve as the community and economic development organization for the whole of the Tahoe Basin. I am here on behalf of Heidi. She sends her regards, wants to thank you for the county's continued partnership in our work, and looks forward to seeing you all soon. I also want to thank you for the recommendation to fund both of our projects. Housing is a foundational strategy for economic development and the enaction of our Envision Tahoe Prosperity Playbook. The playbook, which I sent out yesterday, I hope you had a chance to glance at it, was published last week and outlines specific strategies to bolster the local workforce, support entrepreneurship, and grow the health and wellness sector, which is in alignment with your community and economic goals. Funding these projects will allow us to support our local workforce, grow your local tax base, and leverage other funds to improve business connections in the area. COVID-19 brought in a wave of entrepreneurs, investors, and startup companies to the Tahoe Basin. The Envision Tahoe Prosperity Playbook is a method to bring them into our local economy We're not trying to eliminate tourism. We're trying to bolster other foundations of the Tahoe base. And as far as our housing work, we're looking to find methods to house our firefighters, our teachers, the people who work with Barton and other major employers in Douglas County. I want to thank you again for your support of our work and for helping us make a positive difference for local businesses and residents. And I am happy to answer any questions that you may have. Okay, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment here in the hall? Okay, since no other comment, do we have any public comment online, Ms. Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marsha Johnson for the record. I do have one person online who has indicated they would like to provide public comment. Buckeye, do you have public comment on item number 10?
You bet we do. Inuit coeptus. Well, now that the cat's out of the bag, we're doing business as Buck Brown today for good reason, gentlemen. Buck Brown is a distant relative of great-great-grandfather John Brown, who gave his head to Stonewall Jackson and General Lee. And we have to call upon these avatars and these ancestors at times because we've been on the forefront of social reform for 37 years, putting the brakes on this war machine of ours. We got three major concerns we'd like to present. We're going to try to include this in our opening statement, which was either censored or was a tech glitch, either or. Commissioner Engels has brought up the emphasis on water. Half the drought or half of the country's in a drought. We're moving into solar maximum 25. Within the next 2 to 3 years, things are going to get really hot. Wildfires. Number 2, either we're not managing them or they're managing us. Now, either they're a facet of domestic terrorism and the kind of domestic terrorism that's assaulting our food supply with over 100 major distribution food centers being torched within the last year and a half, or it's our organizational principle. If you follow the money, you'll see the longer the fire burns, the more trail dollars and the more building dollars are allocated towards law enforcement and forestry and fire. We need to localize our agriculture, gentlemen. We need to get a handle on our food production, and we need to look at these three things. And as you know, we're going to continue to advocate to put the brakes on the police state. Under Sheriff Engels admitted in the last meeting on June 2nd that they have problems within the ranks of law enforcement with their employees. They're not arresting as many people as they have in times past. Your drug war is over. The $57 billion cash cow that Nixon's program has been drawn upon for the last 50 some odd years is a total complete failure. We're not advocating for shotguns in our high schools or our middle school or our grade schools, Commissioner. We do not advocate for the weaponization of our schools or the militarization of our law enforcement. We need to redirect our priorities, pull back on these things, slow it down, and let's get some real community input on this. Let's do a community opinion poll. Let's do some market research on this. Let's diversify the, let's share the burden of these decisions. It's so much information you guys are handling. Just got the minutes on the last meeting. It's 1,500 pages. I mean, that's so much information. How can 5 people or even just a handful of people deal with that? We have to reorganize the way that we're managing these details. And thank you,
Mr. Brown. Thank you, Mr. Gibson. I do want to remind you when we're discussing a particular agenda item, you need to keep your comments particular to that agenda item only. Otherwise, it could be construed as a open meeting law violation. So in the future, if you would please limit your comments, Mr. Gibson, to items that are specifically on the agenda and or within the jurisdiction of this board, I would appreciate it. And
that law enforcement building is on the agenda. That $500 million that you're wanting for the expansion of that building is my point of interest.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Okay. Sensing no other, I don't know if Ms. Johnson, I don't know if there's any other, he's off, so. I need to find out if there's still additional public comment online.
I'd like to get my opening statement in, Commissioner. I'd like permission to have the opening
I'm
statement.
sorry, but we're past opening comments, so I'm sorry that's not available.
Okay.
We do
We'll
have
a
a
notice
closing
sent to you
public
for
comment.
censorship.
We do have a public comment available at the end of the meeting. And once again, if you keep your comments to within the jurisdiction of this board, we'll welcome those comments. Otherwise, we'll not entertain that. Thank you. Ms. Johnson, do we have any other public comment online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marsha Johnson for the record. I do have one other individual with their hand raised. Megan, do you have public comment on item number 10?
Yeah, hi, this is Megan Kelly speaking again from the Nevada Tahoe Conservation District, but also as a resident of Douglas County, Lake Tahoe. I just want to thank the commissioners for all the consideration that's gone into the Kale Drive project and the funding for that. And I do, after consideration and talking to the county manager, support the strategy of either acquiring congressional funding for the shortfall or using the TOT funding for Kale Drive. And I just hope that that is decided by October 2022 so that we can plan on putting the project out to bid in January or February of 2023 and breaking ground on May 1st, since we have such a limited construction season in Lake Tahoe and we have to complete it between May 1st and October 15th for it to be completed in 2023. I do want to remind people that over 2.5 million has been secured in other grant funding sources, and those funders have an expectation of the project moving forward within the next year or two. So we also are trying to make sure that we keep the project on track to be constructed in 2023. And then finally, just as a resident of Lake Tahoe, I would express my support for the $70,000 to the Tahoe Prosperity Center for workforce housing. I know my husband is a teacher at Zephyr Cove at George Wattell High School. My kids go to Zephyr Cove Elementary School, and we've lost a number of staff and teachers. We get a new principal almost every year just because it's so unaffordable to live at the lake. And some of this type of housing, there is places for it, and other communities that are even more expensive than ours have figured it out, such as Aspen and Breckenridge and Sun Valley, Idaho. So I think that it's worth trying. All right, that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Ms. Johnson, do we have any other public comment online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marsha Johnson for the record. At this time, there's no further public comment online.
Very good. We'll bring it back to the board. I'm going to start down at the end. What we're going to do is we're going to use Mr. Cates' spreadsheet and check off what commissioners can support what. And obviously, once 3 commissioners indicate their support of an item, then that item will ultimately wind up in the final motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
I think all of us agree on most of them. Can we just say with the ones we don't agree with? Maybe a lot quicker.
That's fine. We can do it either way. So,
Mr. Chairman, if you could just give us a minute, I got kicked out of Zoom. Oh, she's getting me back in. Okay, never mind. We're good to go.
Very good. So this is on the recommended list. Is that right, Mr.
Yeah, I'm in favor of everything except 13, 14, and 16.
Oh, 16? Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. So you are in favor of all items except for number 13, number 14, and number 16?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay, thank you. Glad I got that corrected. Commissioner Nosad?
I'm in favor of all of them.
Okay. Mr. Ingles? 13, 14, and 16 also?
Pull 13, 14, and 15.
And 15. Okay. Commissioner Rice.
Mr. Chairman, I'm in favor of all of them, 1 through 18.
Okay, and then my vote, I will concur with Commissioner Tarkanian and Commissioner Ingalls to pull 13, 14, and 16. I would leave 15 in intact. So I don't know where we are in that regard then.
For the foundation and the church, I understand it is vital. Maybe we can get a small loan to get that fixed and pull it out of this. It's a lot of money.
So Terry Willoughby, for the record, there's two, Genoa has a capital reserve fund as well as another we pass through some of the property tax identified for capital projects. So they get that share of it. And that's a little over 110,000. So I think I can certainly work with the town to get at least some of the engineering done for that.
Okay, so you would concur with the removal of item 15?
I'm just providing information.
I understand. Okay. Okay, so I believe we have concurrence. We have a minimum of 3 votes on all items except for 13, 14, 15, and 16. Is that my indication? Okay, so I will entertain a motion at this time then for approval of all items on the county manager priority list minus items 13, 14, 15, and 16. Do I hear a motion?
I would love to go that route, but I think we got 3 approvals for the one that I disapproved or did not approve, 16, because Commissioner Engel was in favor of that. And I didn't have a problem with 15. So I think both of those 2 would have 3 out of the 5.
Okay, so you're suggesting that I should entertain a motion for the approval of items 1 through 18 minus 13 and 14. Is that correct? I'll entertain a motion. I'll entertain a motion to that effect because we have to have a motion to do that.
So moved.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Noasad, seconded by Commissioner Tarkanian. Is that right? To approve all items 1 through 18 minus 13 and 14.
Sure, I'll second.
Okay. So in that regard, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. So we have 4 ayes and 1 Commissioner Rice.
Hold on.
Okay.
We're approving 15.
Yes.
Well, we just discussed this. That's $1 million. Which number is that? Oh, I see. I'm looking at the wrong column.
Yeah, the total request was $1 million for total construction.
Yeah, my bad.
Okay, so I need to reiterate the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. And those against?
Nay.
Okay, so the vote goes 4 votes in favor and 1 vote no. So that's the recording. Okay, so all items have been approved from 1 through 18 minus 13 and 14. So that leaves us basically $70,000 in our funds to still allocate. Now, is there anything that the commissioners would like to do with that $70,000, I guess? Ms. Willoughby, you had some comments?
at the end, I want to follow up with the process and what happens, the next steps on this, because
Do we want to leave that $70,000 in there or do we want to allocate it?
I liked, and in our 2-on-1, you thought it was a decent idea too. The lady who had spoken about the funding in the opening comments, she sent us an email with that request. My computer went dead on me, so I don't have it in front of me now.
I think that was the
Yeah, no,
Family
wait, yeah,
Support
I wrote it
Council
down.
was looking for 60,000.
60, well, we don't have that much, but, oh yeah, we do. I like that, and if we're gonna have the money, I would use it for that. It's a
$60,000.
Family Support Council.
And I would concur with that, Commissioner Tarkanian, and I'd also like to I'd like to include item number 21, which is the town of Genoa painting the church. And I'd like to bump that number to 10,000, and that would take $70,000 and eat it up.
I would concur with that, but
Any other comments from the commissioners? The thought process here is item number 21, and bump that from 5650 to 10,000, and item number 26, which is the Family Support Council, and approve that 60,000 with $70,000 available. That eats up $70,000.
I make that motion.
Do I have a second on that? Okay. Second, motion by Commissioner Tarkanian, seconded by Commissioner Rice to approve $10,000 for item number 21 and $60,000 for item 26, Family Support Council. Sensing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, motion passes 5-0. So we're out of ARPA funds, right, Ms. Willoughby?
Terry Willoughby for the record, yes.
So you had some closing comments on that.
I do. I wanted to communicate the next steps on this for the external agencies, including Family Support, the Arts Council. I think that's it. And the Arts Council, I will be contacting them. They have to, just like East Fork had to sign a sub-grant agreement, they will be required to sign that agreement because they have to spend it in accordance with our regulations. The towns and everyone else will be spending it out of our ARPA Special Revenue Fund. We don't transfer the money to the departments. We keep it in the ARPA fund. It's spent out of there so that we can control, make sure the federal procurement guidelines are followed. And that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Willoughby. Thank you, Mr. Cates, for bringing this forward. And I know this is, as Commissioner Rice has said, this has been an extremely painful process. It almost would have been easier not to have $9 million to try to spend because, and I'm sure if we had extended this out, we could have come up with $100 million worth of projects within our county that need to be done. But we do have a limited tax base here in Douglas County, and those funds were also limited. So I appreciate the diligence. We looked at this the first time in April, I believe, and here we are in June. And so I appreciate the attention of the commissioners and really taking a look at all of this and trying to determine the priorities and also trying to answer the thousands of emails we've had collectively on this. So I don't know what else to say, but thank you. Yes. Okay, that completes item number 9 and or number 10, and we will go to item number 11 for presentation only. We have 2 items left here. We have item number 11 and we have closing public comment. So for presentation only, updates, reports from county commission members concerning the various boards and or commissions that they may be a member of or a liaison to, or meeting functions they have attended. And we'll start down at the end. Commissioner Tarkanian has nothing. Commissioner Noah nothing. Okay, Commissioner Ingalls, anything to report? Okay, Commissioner Rice.
I hate to be a spoiler, but yes. TDVA, Tahoe Douglas Visitors Authority, report on the event center. It is on budget. not on time, thanks to the pandemic and now a family of swallows that's decided to move in. They are protected, and that is impeding some of the process, but as soon as the eggs hatch and the fledglings go away, they'll be able to continue in that section. We do have workers all over the building. They're putting the roof on. It is taking shape. It is beautiful. It looks like we're going to be not opening until March because of the delays of getting some of the equipment that's needed. There's something about being on a barge somewhere in the middle of the ocean or whatever. But you ran out of gas. Yeah. Thank you. No, I can't say that. Anyway, things are really looking good for the event center, and the electrification process is going to be going on probably next month. And as soon as the electrification is accomplished, the floor will be poured. It will be much of the construction have to stop when the floor is poured because they don't want anything dropping into it and messing up whatever. So it's going along well, and when it's open, we will have a grand ceremony. Trust me. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rice. I don't have anything to report other than a reminder to the public that tomorrow night we have the second in the concert series, the Bentley Heritage Summer Concert Series right here in Minden Park. And certainly all members of the public are welcome. So with that, we will go to closing public comment. So at this time, public comment will be taken on those items that are within the jurisdiction and control of the Board of Commissioners, or those agenda items where public comment has not already been taken. Do I have any public comment here in chambers? Okay, sensing none. Public comment online, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marcia Johnson for the record. I do have one person online who has indicated they would like to provide public comment. Jason, do you have closing public comment at this time?
For the record, doing business as Buckeye Brown to shield the aggression of the state with regards to the agenda item related to the ballooning budget that funds law enforcement, addressing the erroneous statements made on June 2nd, the misinformation by Commissioner Engels suggesting that the gun violence in Texas justifies shotguns in our schools, that the gun violence is directly related to the hemp cannabis movement, the decriminalization of the nation, that the gun violence is associated with hemp is ludicrous. It's ridiculous. None of the states, all of the states that have the gun violence, from Texas to Oklahoma to New York, Iowa, Utah, they are all adamantly against the decriminalization of hemp cannabis. Now, there's a difference with hemp for food, fuel, fiber.
So I'm sorry, Mr. Gibson.
I'm talking about the $500 million building that you just justified, sir. I'm talking about the fact that you censored my opening statement.
You're not talking within the jurisdiction of the County Board of Commissioners. So thank you very much for your public comment. If you have comments that you wish to submit in paper, you can do so with our county clerk's office. Thank you. Is there any other public comment online, Ms. Johnson? Thank you. Ready to adjourn. Mr. Engels, you had comments?
Well, this situation with the Gardnerville Ranchos and their water, this is the first major entity within our county that has an aquifer that is literally drying up and has been over appropriated. and they have a serious situation. And they keep coming back for money from somewhere. They may need some help in regard to how they're going to approach this. I don't know whether that should be a public meeting discussed by this board to discuss with their board. But they have to start doing some things that they're not doing. They have to start thinking about quit issuing will serve letters to developers. They haven't raised their rates in over 10 years, and it's going to cost a lot of money. How is this all going to be paid for? How's it going to be done? What are they going to do? I don't know. I mean, so at any rate, it's just something to think about, but it's because of water or lack of it.
Thank you. Sensing no further comment, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, and I appreciate you powering through this versus taking a lunch break. So.
Recording stopped.